last time. Hello, thank you for tuning into the Hollywood Morgue podcast. Today, as you saw from the title, we're going to be talking about Mystery Men 1999, the kind of a comic book movie. It's a weird amalgamation of different things, but that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're also going to be talking about some underrated or just popular '90s flicks from that same era, and yeah, just going to have a fun conversation. It was actually Chandler who was wanted to talk about the movie. And for any of the people who watch this later, we're not doing this because of the recent passing of the lead singer of Smash Mouth. They did the music video, the music video for that song. They did it for this movie, and so it's not because we're doing it for them. We're not trying to capitalize on somebody's passing. We're just doing it because we like the movie, and just kind of get that idea out of your heads. But anyway, I'm going to pass it off to you. Why did you want to talk about this movie?
It's great.
It's great, yeah.
It's just really good, and not many people have seen it, I guess. And not many people talk about it. I looked up reviews of it on YouTube, and there aren't very many of them.
Well, it's not. I think a lot of people they don't know what to think. It's a Mystery Man. It's not like Superman. It's kind of a weird title for a movie. It's like what is that about? I mean, it's got a pretty stacked cast. I mean, well, considering for the time. I mean, it's got Ben Stiller, what's his name, William H Macy, Kel from Keenan Kel, Janine Garofalo, Hank Azaria, who I know we kind of joked about it. He pretty much this character from this movie, the Blue Raja, is pretty much the same character as Common Raw from the Night of the Museum movie. That at least that's what I say. It's literally the same voice. Um, but yeah, it's a pretty stacked cast, and I'm surprised people don't know this movie. I guess do you know the origins of the characters?
Uh, I know that Mystery Man is actually a comic book or a comic book series, but the movie kind of does its own thing compared to that.
Right. Yeah. It's based off the Flaming Carrot. I guess what's a comic book strip of characters from back in the day. I don't know exactly all the details, but that's what these are like the side characters from that story. And I think I think this movie, if it came out, if they had decided to do this now, um, I think it because the characters in the comic books, they're very simply drawn because I'm sure it wasn't a very the high budget comic book strip. But I think it might have benefited from one of those, like either like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and like the Mitchells versus the Machines, that kind of animation style. I think I think they would have been able to like bring these characters to life, giving them like a little modern update, but because they're so kind of fantastical and weird, they're literally it's called the flaming carrot because the main character is literally a giant carrot with a body, and he's got a flame where the stem is supposed to be. So it's a very odd origins for this movie, but they don't use those characters. These are like those characters that we don't really see a whole lot. But this movie was definitely it was kind of a spoof of superhero movies, but really at the time there wasn't very many superhero movies. Which ones came out around that time? What Darkman, Blade? I mean, don't you? I mean, wouldn't you agree that it was a
Yeah,
weird time?
yeah. Darkman, Blade, the two Schumacher Batman movies.
Yeah,
Um, can, well, I was gonna say RoboCop, but that's not '90s.
no, it's '80s, but like Batman stuff, like those Batman movies. Um, it's weird that they decided that they picked the time to do this because it's supposed to be kind of a spoof of those kind of heroes,
Hmm.
but it wasn't as relevant. Those type of movies weren't as relevant as they are now, which I think like this movie maybe not with it might be with a different cast because all those actors are much older, but it would make more sense to do kind of that spoof, and essentially that's what they did with like movies like The Boys or the TV show like The Boys. It's not really a spoof, much less like if these superheroes were realistic. And movie kind of does the same thing where these are like they don't really have there is supernatural superhero elements like supernatural elements, um, but I mean some of these guys they literally have no powers. Like Ben Stiller's character literally has no powers. He's just like kind of gets mad, and Willie Macy's character doesn't have any powers. And so it's weird that they decided to do it at this time, when nowadays would be more relevant. But I'm glad they did it because it wouldn't be as near as iconic, and it wouldn't have the '90s feel like it does. So, but with all that being said, let's kind of just go into like the movie and kind of just break it down a little bit. I guess till from the start, beginning to the end. And after that, I guess we'll talk about some other underrated '90s movies, classic superhero, whatever. So I guess we'll. Do you want to start, or do you want me to start from the beginning?
Well, I do want to say one thing because you said Ben doesn't have powers in the movie, and William H Macy doesn't have powers, but there there's one thing that confused me a little bit. Uh, I don't know the actress's name. You said her name earlier.
Janine
Uh,
Garofalo.
yeah, she can throw that ball with her father's skull in it,
Yeah,
and it can
yeah. As I
fly
said,
around.
there's characters that have supernatural powers, and there's some that don't. Like I guess spoilers. If you didn't know about this movie going in, but the movie's over 20 years old. So um, yeah, 20 years old. Yeah, the movie's over 20 years old. So um, but yeah, there's characters like Kell's character. He has powers. She has powers. And I guess Captain Amazing doesn't have powers though. He just has a jetpack,
Yeah,
and he's
and
kind of strong.
uh, I'm just gonna say you are forgetting one person in the movie that we haven't mentioned, and I personally don't like him, but
Oh, you're talking about are you talking about what's his name? The
yeah,
spleen,
yeah, I'm
Paul
talking,
Rubens.
yeah, Paul Rubens.
Yeah, it's I guess it's a combination of it might be a commentary on people like Janine Garofalo. She actually has like some sort of power. Like Superman like has powers, Wonder Woman has powers, Batman he's just got gadgets. Yeah, but he's funding the whole thing. So I mean I'm not a Batman fanboy. Much prefer Superman. I think he has cooler powers. But I guess it's kind of it has that amalgamation of like what the Justice League is and what like Iron like the Marvel Avengers uh type things. What they do is they got everybody's got a little bit of something that they bring to the team, which makes it work together. And I guess that's the whole point of it.
And,
But yes, Paul Rubens, who also recently passed away. Um, he plays Spleen, which he has and that would be a character if they were ever to remake this movie, which I don't think they will. But if they were to ever do that, I think they would leave that character out because it's kind of gross. I mean, yes, it's like it's child humor. I think we're both big children, but I think that the child humor of that just I don't think would sit well nowadays.
yeah, whenever I rewatched the movie, I had to turn the volume all the way down to zero because I didn't want to see any of his scenes.
Right.
Uh, it just it made me like I don't know. It's too childish, while the rest of the movie's not childish at all. Like,
Oh, there's some childish parts of the movie. Like the movie is not like overly serious, like with the side characters and stuff like that. But that character, to me, I think could have been left out or could have been changed. I mean,
right,
but Paul Rubens, when he's actually given some material to kind of act with, I mean, he actually does a pretty decent job. He's been doing. I mean, Pee Wee. What people say they watch Pee Wee, but I don't know what small child even nowadays would even watch something like that. It's so like bizarre and weird, and it's kind of funny to make fun of. But when he's given a chance to act, he can really act. But in this movie, he plays a gross character that has a gross power, and it's it sucks that it sucks that that's kind of, I don't want to say that it's his legacy. It's not his legacy, but because the legacy is Pee Wee. But it's like now if they ever decide to do that, this character, his character's kind of stuck if they decide to rebrand it and do stuff like that. And it's just I don't like it either.
Right.
But I mean, he is kind of funny though. I think it's funny where he's trying to hit on Janine Garofalo in the scene where they're in the bar,
Right.
and he's like, so you and me. She's like, not a chance, and he just walks away. Well, it's funnier in the movie, but so I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, good call on that.
He tries to flirt with her all through it.
I'm pretty sure. I think if they would have done like a sequel, I think that she would have got with what's his name, the Blue Raja.
Really?
I think so because they were kind of hitting it off with each other.
Hmm.
I think in the movie because she didn't like Ben Stiller's character, and he had that girlfriend
Uh-huh.
at the end of it, and I mean William H Macy's married. I mean
Right.
the only one I could think of is maybe Kel's character, but I mean he's a kid.
Yeah, he was literally a teenager.
Well, I mean he's like 50 now, which is weird. Which weird to say, but he's probably not 50. He's like in his like early 40s or late 30s, but
Right.
um it would have been weird. So I think if they would have done like a sequel to it, I think she would have got with his character. But yeah, Paul Rubens, although the character is not like the best, he it's some of his stuff is kind of funny. But I could agree that I feel it was kind of taken aback by the character, the choices that they made with them.
Right. I guess now we can start from the beginning and break down.
Yeah. So yeah, just I guess start from like the opening scene. Um, do you want to talk about the when they get to the party or whatever, or do you want to talk about like the landscape, like the opening credits and all that stuff?
Yeah, yeah. You mean like the city?
The city, yeah,
Yeah, because the city reminds me of Schumacher's uh, Gotham in his two movies.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Late, late '90s, early 2000s CGI was not the best. However, aesthetically, like the city, it's it's so they did like a lot of that stuff with like Blade Runner and any of those cities where it's supposed to be future world kind of esque, and they did that with this, and it gives it its own identity. You have the city parts, and then you have like the suburb parts, and the suburb parts just looks like any normal house in the mid '90s, but like when you get to the city, that's where like they got the weird architecture and they got blimps flying around, and it definitely has its own identity, just like the Schumacher Batmans don't look like the Tim Burton Batmans.
Right,
It's
nowhere
two
near it.
different directors.
Hmm.
Duh, but like it's two different directors. But Tim Burton has his like dark, seedy Gotham, like this is crime written, like nobody's safe. And then you have the Schumacher's Batman, where you got 20-foot metal statues, gold metal statues, and then you got guys oiled up with yellow paint on their bodies, banging drums, which I don't think had anything to do with Joe Schumacher being he was a little you know what I'm saying. I think, but no, I think he might have had that creative choice for other reasons, but they're two different things, and I think the city with that, I think it has its own identity, and I think a lot of these movies nowadays they would just do it like Chicago, like it would just look like any other city. Nothing would have its own identity. It's like, oh, it's in New York. It's like it's New York, but it's shot in Amsterdam, or it's not like this is a fake city in this movie, and it's like, oh wow, that's so Mystery Man, or that's so Tim Burton's Batman. Now it's like, oh, that's just downtown Austin. Like literally, it all looks the same nowadays.
Right.
But um, but yeah, the opening scene. What do you think about that opening scene with the bad guys?
No, the opening scene's pretty good. You get the first three of the team:
Right.
Mr. Furious, the Blue Raja, and the Shoveler,
Right. Um,
fighting some pretty interesting bad guys, I guess.
I can't remember what those bad guys were. The Red Eyes. I think that's what they're called.
The
Yeah.
Red Eyes,
The Red
yes.
Eyes. Yeah. Yeah. And they break into a nursing. It's not really a nursing home, but it's like a. They break into a party for old people.
Yes.
Which um that whole setting, like, it's weird if you want to start like this serious or comic book movie. It's like, let's have these guys with red goggles break into an old folks home and still play these dentures in a guy's prosthetic arm. Like, you know from the beginning this movie is not meant to be taken 100% serious, and it sets up the comedy in a way.
Um. Yeah, it's like huh. There was something I wanted to say, but
I mean, you don't. I mean, what? Oh, so we're not live, so you're fine.
all right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It says live on the. I might say live on the screen, but we're. It's a privated video, so there's nobody watching it. It's just us. So if you don't want it in there, I can cut it out. Um, but what did you want to say?
Uh, there's just something about the opening of the movie whenever I saw it for the first time, and I think I was like maybe 12, 13, 14. Something about that opening kept me watching it, even though whenever I got the movie from my uncle, the only reason I wanted to see it was because it was a superhero movie. And sometimes now, whenever I choose to watch something, if I don't like the opening 10 or 15 minutes, I'll turn the movie off.
Right.
Well, Mystery Men just hooked me for some reason. It wasn't because it was funny, but something about the style and the characters and everything just, I literally couldn't turn it off.
Right.
I went through a phase where whenever I found something that I really, really liked, I literally watched it every day. And Mystery Men was one of those.
Right. No, and actually, what you said, you may not have thought like it was funny, but there is a lot of style. Like, it's not shot like um like every other movie, like Batman. There's a lot of aesthetic choices about, like, with Batman, when you see him like turn around in a scene, or the '80s Batman at least, when you see him like turn around, you see his eyes are lit up, and that's a style choice. That's yeah, that's where you're supposed to you see, or like when you see the Joker, when you see him come out of the shadow, like when he's talking to Grissom in that scene where Jack Nicholson becomes the Joker, you see him take off the hat. It's like, you just call me Joker, and he points the gun at him. It's like, that's where you see, you know, that's where you're seeing him for the first time. You're not seeing him like being wacky and crazy. You're seeing, this is Joker. You see him be wacky and crazy later, but you get to see this is the dark side of Joker. This is like the grounded. I say grounded, for a fake character, but this is the grounded Joker. This is, he's not afraid to take out people to get his way. And
Right.
the way they shoot that, and the way you see him like get inch closer and closer. I think back in the day, the film, I think when because they didn't know that it was going to go to like 4K and Blu-ray. I think it's meant to look darker in the scene, because you see Jack Nicholson before you see his face, makeup, and everything before you see him come out. And I think they were like hoping that you wouldn't see that like home video. You see, it would be a little bit dark, or maybe that's just me, and maybe just making a um that. But there's a style choice. There's like style choices with Gotham, like Joel Schumacher. With like with the look of like the Batcave, and just different Like Jack Nicholson, when you see him, and I say that because this was the movies that came out around that time or that time frame of like early '90s stuff, or like in movies like Blade, where um he's got that. When you have one movie that's really successful that uses certain things, it becomes wildly like overused. Like in Blade, he's got that dark clothes, he's got leather shoes, leather pants, leather everything, leather jacket, long flowing trench coat, and he's very smooth. It's all very like anime inspired. And then the Matrix did it. That I think people say they ripped it off the Matrix, but I don't know. You might have to do some. No, you probably can't because you're using your phone. Um, but the I think the Matrix ripped off Blade. I think unless Blade came out later, then I still think they ripped off Blade because
No,
Blade, uh, Blade like in the Matrix, it's an aesthetic choice, but Blade does it so much better. And then after the '90s, early 2000s, everybody started doing that. People stuff like Equilibrium, all the Matrix sequels. I guess which is written by the same people and directed by the same people, but just other stuff like I think Hellboy, although that is his like costume, it's still leather, trench coat, long flowing trench coat. So even other stuff with it inspired the look um, of that, but it's definitely a style choice. The low angle, the perspectives, the POV shots, the perspective shots, the low angle, the way they shoot stuff, very very fast motion. I think it's supposed to what there's like what the Hulk. Did you ever watch that 2003 Hulk movie?
yes.
Um, like what they did with the Hulk, they made it look like a comic book. They put the panels in and everything, and I think that's what they were trying to do with this. They tried to like have shots where people are like he's looking into the camera and he's like screaming. That's going to be out of like a comic book, and it was definitely on purpose for sure, and it makes it stand out from other just run of the mill crap.
Right. Um, can I ask where you were going with the leather trench coat? Is
Like I was just saying, like with that time period, everybody was trying to copy each other, and you have they all well in this movie at least everybody has their own unique look. Well, even Ben Stiller in this movie, I didn't think about that, but even his character in this movie he has
a
a long
leather?
flowing leather trench coat.
Yeah, yeah. I was trying to see if that's where you were going with that.
But I mean, with in the comic book, he has like I guess it's because it's spandex because he has like flames, and it's black flames with like a spandex supposed to like fit form to his or form fit to his body and everything. Which Superman does that too, but now it's more of a like everything. He was supposed to look muscular. He was supposed to look not like a normal guy. So when they made those like early Superman movies, everything he's very fit, but nowadays they just add the padding to the suit, and it all looks kind of unique. But they wanted to do something different. They wanted to give him some sort of mobility, and I guess maybe it was just they were just following a trend, or maybe they wanted to sell black leather. I don't know. That was the '90s was weird.
I mean, to be honest, his outfit to me is pretty interesting, and it's especially interesting whenever they upgrade their costumes because I don't know, something about a black leather trench coat with flames on it makes it like 100 times better.
Well, I mean, yeah. Uh, I think them if there was just the black trench coat, I would have been lazy. But they did take some. They did pay in a way, you know, add something from the comic, which was the flames. So they wanted to add that, and I think it actually looks cool. I think if they sold that jacket, if they sold that trench coat somewhere, I definitely I'd try to pick it up because it does look cool. Um, but everybody has their own unique look in this movie. Was it the Blue Raja? He wears like the turban, and which I'm sure there are going to be people out there who would watch it and they're like, why is that straight white male? Why is he wearing a turban? You know.
Yeah, yeah. I that is something that confuses me because he's a white American man who wears the turban and outfit, but he talks British, and like they say in the movie, he has no blue on his costume.
That is true. He does not. But it is explained in the movie though, because he was talking about how the British used to rule India and all this stuff, and because um, he's supposed to be something from history. I didn't look a whole lot into it, but I'm sure he's correct. And yeah, he does not have any blue. I don't understand that, but I think he does have blue at the end. I think he adds a little bit of that at the
Yeah,
end.
whenever they upgrade their costumes,
Yeah.
he may have a little bit of blue on him.
Um, but I forgot what I was gonna say. Um, he it kind of explains the origin of his character. Yeah, he is an American guy who speaks British. Which I don't know why he didn't speak British, or they didn't attempt to do the British accent all the way through to say that was his thing, which I guess it was easier for him. But he's basically does the accent the whole movie, so I don't know why they didn't just give the character a British accent and just like, oh,
Right. Well,
but
I there's something that really made me smile was whenever I don't want to get too far ahead, but whenever they're about to have the big battle at the end, and he's rummaging around in his mother's silverware, and
yeah,
and he does the accent, and she
hmm
goes, "Okay, well, I'll give you." She gives him his great grandmother's forks,
hmm
like, and then he's trying to hurry up and leave, and he's talking, regular, and she tells him to do the accent.
yeah,
Something about that just made me smile. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's somebody, it's a parent who's kind of what do you call it? They kind of accepted like their kids a little bit different, and I guess that's an allegory for other stuff we won't talk about. But it could be an allegory for other stuff, other parents. It's like your kid is into this, this is what it is, this and that's how it's going to be, and the mother, trying to let's say cope with it because it sounds like she's like somebody's dying, but like trying to you know understand or trying to you know um what do you call it, be on the level to know that she's agrees with it, him being a superhero. But like I
right.
said, that could be an allegory for other people for other things.
Yeah, because she tells him that he's special,
Special.
and, and whenever she said that, I was like, hmm, is that good or bad?
Yeah. I mean, um, I don't know. I mean, special means a lot of things. You're special. You're unique. You're my kid. She's not. It's not a big deal to her.
Right.
It's just there's no need to lie anymore. And when he's trying to he shows what he's doing, he gets all he gets into character and he does the whole stick to her and so
Yeah.
this is what it is. And so that I think it's a good character. I think it's a good addition to the character that he doesn't have to hide around it anymore. And it's funny because I think a couple years before this was a couple years after he did the Birdcage, which he plays, um, he plays kind of a gay not a kind of a gay character. He plays a gay character in that movie. So you can look at it in that eye. Um, then it might just be us, but or me, but yeah, it is a nice addition to in the scene, and um, his character is one of my favorites because I think he has some of the best like dialogue and like lines in the movie.
Right.
Um, he's also to me the most memorable because he has the accent and he has like a unique character trait. I think he's to me is the most memorable character in the movie.
Hmm.
Or,
So is he? Do you consider him your favorite?
Probably, yeah. I would say I liked Kel's character purely
Hmm.
because his character, like literally, you have to close your eyes. That's like, um, that's like a parent's like I'm gonna just like he literally his character is like, I disappear, but you got to cover your eyes. That's like a little kid saying, I can run really really fast. I can run to the all around the world, but you got to close your eyes, or you got to close your eyes and count to 10 or whatever. Like it just it's like, or I can lift this couch. Watch me lift this couch, but you got to close your eyes. It doesn't. It kind of has that same feel, but you see his character. He's not lying,
No.
and I think the scene where he's like he turns off the thing, and he gets totally naked, and then he turns around, and everybody's like, Jesus.
Yeah, whenever that happened, it shocked me because other than Gina, whatever her name is,
Janine Garofalo.
yeah, other than her and Spleen, I didn't think that he had any actual powers. And then once he does that with the laser thing, they're just like, okay, they just accept the fact that he actually turned invisible. Like like they accept the fact that a majority of them don't have powers,
Right.
but there are three of them that do.
Well, I mean, the three, but they all. And I don't think it entirely matters because in the end, they all work together to save each other.
Right.
I mean, but if he didn't have powers, though, if he didn't have powers, then how could he get across? That would be because the thing was like it would detect people. You know,
Exactly.
it would detect people. So how would he get across if he didn't have powers? So, but I think that character because he's so willing to help and he wants to like join the team, but they kind of doubt that he actually they doubt that he actually has powers, and then when it's revealed, it's in a funny way, and he's not just like the he's not just like you have movies like Blues Brothers 2000. They have like a kid character for no reason, when it should just be the two main Blues Brothers, but you got to add this like MacGuffin character. There's actually something he could bring to the team, and so it's a nice reveal the way that's done. Um, but to get back to the beginning, we see those first three characters, and they're not really respected by the after Captain Amazing. I should say Captain Amazing.
Mm.
He comes in, who's played by an actor I can't remember his name, but he was in a movie called Heaven Is for Real. He's been in a bunch of other stuff too, but that's just the one that comes to mind when I think of him. But um, he he's been a bunch of stuff, a bunch of TV stuff. He was in a movie, I think, with what's his name, Matt Damon, where he's like conjoined twins. I can't remember the name of it. But he's like conjoined twin with Matt Damon. Anyway, he plays like this universe's character of like Homelander from The Boys. He's got all the sponsors. Everybody loves him. He's the greatest superhero of all time. And he literally wears like he has his costume, and he literally wears his endorsements on his uniform. Like he's a billboard for all these companies. Like he's like sponsored by Pennzoil and Pepsi, who sponsors him and all this stuff. And which I mean, pretty much nowadays, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there is real superheroes that they would do that. It's like get this new suit brought to you by Gucci. Just have the Gucci logo on the side right here next to the superhero logo in the middle. And that he does a good job with that character. He essentially plays like a Superman, Homelander s character where he's like the chairman of the or he's not is he the chairman of the prison because they break out the villain of the movie, and he's like one of the members of the board or
No,
something.
well, no, he whenever what is his name? What's his name? Jeffrey Rush. Whenever Jeffrey Rush Casanova Frankenstein.
Which
Yeah,
is
the
a
board.
great name.
Huh?
Great
Yeah,
name.
it really is. It really is. Um, whenever the board is debating whether or not to let him out, uh, the woman on the board says that he's changed and all this stuff because she's actually in cahoots with him. But
Right.
uh, yeah, Captain Amazing comes in and he's got glasses on,
Right.
and they do make a joke in the movie about that. The fact that he has glasses, that automatically means he's not Captain Amazing.
Which he doesn't wear a mask. Like, this character doesn't wear a mask or anything, so he literally looks like the guy who's on the board, but nobody assumes that he's. It's just like people are like, what about Clark Kent? Clark Kent and Superman. Like, literally, he looks will take the glasses off. I don't know if you watch. Do you watch Hack the Movies? Tony from Hack the Movies.
I may have, yeah.
Um, he talks about when he was watching the one of the Godzilla movies. He was talking about how there's a character from the first movie that shows up. He's like, that shows up in another movie. And he's like, oh, did he just show up in this movie again? But apparently he was a different character, but he was the same actor in other movies, but just a different character. But he said he wore an eye patch in that first movie, and then he wore the eye patch in the second one, and he couldn't tell the difference, that he was like another character. That he was the same actor, but another character in two other movies before the one where he came back with the eye patch. So, I mean, if you have a character that has glasses in this movie and they don't have glasses, you don't recognize them, uh, like Stephen Lang. Stephen Lang? He's the guy who's the villain in those Avatar movies, the
Uh-huh.
white hair. He's in Tombstone, like the movie Tombstone from
Yeah, the
90.
Western.
Yeah. And I had no idea. I'm like, that guy, he looks so familiar. And I looked at Stephen Lang. It's like, that's the bad guy from Avatar. It's like, that doesn't look like the same guy. He's got a beard and everything. So you put a beard on somebody and you give him a beard with a cowboy hat, and it's like, that doesn't even look like the same actor. But it's like, holy crap, that's the same guy. I would never guess, you know. Um, and that's the best kind. I think it's the best kind of character. That's like the best kind of acting, is when you're such a good actor that's like, you're not like The Rock. The Rock is in the movie, is in a movie, because he's The Rock. But if you're an actor, they put you under makeup and you do a good job, people are like, oh, that guy was really good. And then like, oh, he's like in this movie and this movie, and you know, it's like, maybe he's not the main character, but he's got main character ability. And that's the kind of actor you want to be. You don't want to be The Rock. I'm The Rock, so watch my movie. That you don't want to be that guy. But yeah, Jeffrey Rush. Where the scene where they're in the thing where he's got the glasses on. William H. Macy. He's like, Captain Amazing does not have glasses. Was it? I forgot the name of the character in the movie. What's the name of the character that his alter ego, his Clark Kent, that Captain Amazing?
Shit. I don't remember that. I just know that William H. Macy tries to prove that Captain Amazing and him are the same guy, and they don't believe him just because he wears glasses. Like,
It's like, he doesn't have a mask on. It's like, he's not like any different. I mean, it's a little bit harder for Bruce Wayne, but I mean, if you know what Bruce Wayne looks like, I mean, you can kind of guess the jawline of Batman. Like, you can guess, like, oh wait, that's Batman. And Superman, it's just funny. But nowadays we're so cynical about that kind of stuff because it's been done so much. But anyway, um, the character of Captain Amazing, he's like this character, biggest, like, the best superhero. He's so good at his job, in fact, that there's no like supervillains anymore. He's put all the supervillains in jail or they've died. And he decides to break out Casanova Frankenstein, played by Jeffrey Rush, who was Barboza. Was he Barboza in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies?
yes, he was. Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
By the way, I figured out his alter ego name.
Okay, what was it?
His name's Lance Hunt.
Lance Hunt.
Yes.
Not quite Clark Kent, but they should have made it with like, there's Peter Parker, Clark, or I guess Clark Kent is not too, but it sounds like it's two C's. Lance Hunt. They should have done something that kind of sounds the same. that would have fit the superhero character.
Right.
But yeah, Jeffrey Rush in the scene where he's supposed to be like this villain. He's been locked up since what, the 70s,
Mm-hmm.
I think, and it's, I mean, he's given a chance to kind of go off on his like psychotic like, and for a movie that's supposed to be kind of silly and it's not supposed to be taken serious, he takes the role very very serious when it's supposed to, and then you get other scenes where he's like was ready to get down and boogie, and then it's like it's stupid, but that's the whole point of the movie. It's kind of stupid in general.
Right. But if it wasn't for him, like for me personally, he's one of the best parts of it. So if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't like it as much.
I liked I don't know, you probably don't know who he is, but he's a comedian, Eddie Izzard. I don't know if you've heard that name before.
I have not.
He's I believe an English comedian. I say English. I don't know. There's like Welsh. He might be Welsh. I don't know what he is. I don't care. I'm not from England. I live in America. Um. Anyway, he's like this. He's European actor, comedian, and he plays a character. And you ever seen the movie called The Wild? About basically, people say it's a ripoff of Madagascar, but
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it's better than Madagascar.
I know what you're talking about. It has a lion in it.
Yeah, it's the one with the lion. He goes to find his son, and he gets taken on a ship to an island, and they go to the island, try to get him back, and he there's a character that's the koala in the movie.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
comedian.
yeah, that's the comedian. That's what I was trying to say. And I'm like, wait a minute, that voice sounds so familiar. Like I've heard his comedy, but before I in this movie, he um in this movie he does the voice that's kind of like Nigel, the character from the movie The Wild. He's kind of does the same voice, and I'm like, wait a minute, that voice sounds so familiar. And then I looked it up. I was like, holy shit, that's who that is. And all these years, by the way, side topic, the movie The Wild, and I said it a minute ago, but better than Madagascar. People said, oh, it's a bad ripoff of Madagascar. No, it's the better movie. It's the animals look more, I say realistic, although they are animated, but they look more realistic. Um, there seems to be there's more stakes. Like it's it's much better done than Madagascar. Madagascar is its whole legacy is I like to move it, move it. That's the whole legacy of that movie. And then the sequel. Then you get Moto Moto in the sequel. Nobody remembers anything from those movies. They remember King Julian, and they remember Moto Moto
Right.
from the second one. But he's another one of the side character villains in the movie, and him and another guy, which I don't remember. I don't know the other guy's name, but they pop up and they kind of taunt they kind of taunt the heroes and everything. And I think there's a fun scene where you have after they've recruited Janine Garofalo, and I think or may not have. No, I think they got Kill too. Um, they got those characters, and they're destroying the van, the limousine,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just like destroying it. And then you get Janine Garofalo's like with the she got the bowling ball and it goes through the windshield, and the Blue Raja's throwing forks in the tires, and you know he's beating it with a shovel. And then you just got Ben Stiller who doesn't do anything, and he like hits the hood, and that's it.
Yeah,
Like
he
he's so furious he can't even do his job.
he gets up on the top of the car, the limo. By the way, I just want to say this is freaking hilarious. But the limousine that Casanova Frankenstein is driving is a freaking it's a hold on. It's a freaking Corvette that's extended out to look like a limousine.
Is it? I
Yeah.
never. I didn't realize that. Hold on. I
Hold on,
mean,
I got a picture of it. I'm actually able to leave
You can
Or
still
Jack.
you can still do it. Yeah. Hold on.
But yeah, it's literally a stretched
It's just
Corvette.
what? That's actually really cool.
Yeah, and it says right here, 1979 Corvette limo. So that's a real thing.
That's a real thing. Not even made for the. So yeah, that's the Corvette limo. That's funny. Um, that has to be kind of screw the Hummer limo, give me the Corvette limo.
Right.
Um, but oh yeah, no that's just kind of a funny scene where you see them kind of working together as a team in the movie, and and then we go. Of course, you got the iconic scene where I guess skipped ahead a little bit. We skipped around a little bit, but you have the scene where they're talking about recruiting people, and then you have all these different people coming up, and you literally have a woman dressed as Wonder. You have a couple girls dressed up as Wonder Woman, and homage to that. You have Dane Cook in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
which people have their opinions on Dane Cook, but he's funny. He's funny, right? I guess maybe at one time, but but they have that scene. That's kind of where that opening bit of the all-star music video starts in that scene, and then they
Yes.
play clips of the movie throughout the music video,
Mm.
um, which they play all-star at the end of the movie, right?
Yeah, at the very end during the credits.
Right. Um, and I guess side note while we're talking about it, um, that song, although it came from this movie, it got popularized by Shrek. I mean, that's obvious. People when they think about it, they think of Shrek, which is good. Shrek is a good movie. We'll have might talk about that one day. But they hated doing after that movie. It got really popular, and everybody would go to their concerts to ask them to play it. And they're like, play Smash Mouth. And I think they went for like a while where they said they wouldn't play the song. They wouldn't play All Star. So, um, so it's crazy how popular that movie became. How popular that song became from a movie that nobody saw, and then they went and saw Shrek, and it's like, oh, the song from Shrek.
Right.
Um, I'm trying to. I'm sure there's other songs um, that have got popularized by a movie. I do know the song. If you ever seen the movie Beverly Hills Cop, the Eddie Murphy movie, there's a song at the beginning that's started up by Patti LaBelle. That song came out like years earlier, but after that movie came out and they played that song at the beginning, she got like her career got a big boost and she started doing shows again. So it really helped. That really helped her career. So um, I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, last one before we get to continue. The song, "Old Town Road" by Lil Nas X.
Yeah.
Everybody's favorite country singer, right? Um, he they played that song "Old Town Road" in the Rambo 6, the last the latest Rambo movie. They played that song in the trailer, and I'm like, I mean, it's a cool song and all, but for Rambo, because I'm pretty sure the song I got the horses in the back. Like the song is like I got the horses in the back. I think that has a euphemism for something. Um, and they played it in Rambo 6 trailer for the movie. So I just thought that was weird, but I guess good on him because he got his song in a big budget. He got a song in a big budget movie trailer. So good on him. But um, but yeah, that's where you get that opening scene. You get that scene where they meet Janine Garofalo, and she's got her dad's head in a bowling ball. Which, I mean, I wouldn't bowl with it. I would just buy the prop if I could get like a replica prop of that, and I would
Same
just
here.
put it in my shelf because it's pretty cool in my opinion.
Right. And it's revealed that very annoying side character that's pretty much Casanova's henchman or whatever, the guy with the tall hair who loves disco.
Oh,
Uh,
that's Eddie Azar, the white guy.
yeah, that's really who that is.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Okay, well, him, he he reveals that he killed her dad and all this, uh, and he ends up getting killed by the bowling ball.
Yeah, yeah. Which, by the way, kind of it's weird that I guess it would make sense to be in glass because it's supposed to like be the guy's head and everything. But who would want a glass bowling ball? Like realistically, um, who would want a glass bowling ball? That seems like it would be really dangerous. You know.
Right.
But yeah, he does reveal later on in the movie that he did kill her dad. Um, which I don't feel like we needed, but I guess character growth because she got closure.
Hmm.
Um, um, but then after that scene, they destroy the guy's um, car, they destroy the guy's limo, and then they run into the Sphinx. Um, just a little bit later on than that, and that character basically talks in fortune cookies. He just says why he says um, basically wise things. It kind of brings them together, and they work as a team. They work a little bit better. They kind of Mr. Furious. He's throughout the movie. He's been talking to this girl, um, which Ben Stiller is, and I don't know if it's just me. I don't really think he's all that funny. Like he's funny in certain things, but he's not the funniest thing in those things.
No.
Um, but so he's been trying to get with this chick, and um, and they make amends, I guess, before he kind of falls in love with this girl, and I forgot what I was trying to say. God damn it! I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. But no, he forgot. He was trying to like he's kind of likes this girl, and she gets kidnapped by Frankenstein, and he discovers that he calls himself Mr. Fierce because he has like a hair trigger temper. And
Hmm.
by the way, Ben Stiller, I would never believe, I can never buy him being a tough guy. Like I don't think in any movie,
Right.
because he's just not. That's just not his character. He's like the funny side character in the movie. You know, he like movies like Starsky and Hutch, or this movie. He plays like this tough guy, like a dick character. I can buy that because you've seen Happy Gilmore, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He plays Hal in that movie, and I can buy him being that character. But being a tough guy, I don't believe so. In the scene where he kind of he wants to be with this girl, and he's like, I'm not as furious as I thought, And there is a big recurring story that people talk about. It's like you moved a city bus, like you saved somebody when you stopped the bus, whatever. And he's like, well, no, it was actually because it was the brake was somebody put their foot off on the gas and it pushed the brake. And so he's trying to downplay his, abilities because he's not like, he doesn't have that, rage in him anymore. And so when you see her get captured in the movie, he kind of gets that attitude back.
Oh hell
And
yeah he does.
do what?
I said hell yeah he does.
Yeah. Um, what do you think of the Sphinx character? What do you think of that character?
Well, the Sphinx was the most appealing to me until I rewatched it recently.
What was appealing to you before that's not appealing now?
Uh,
What do you think?
he had this mysterious Batman kind of vibe, but I- now he was just kind of boring. Um, I know that whenever the Disco Boys, whenever they're all pointing their guns at the team, and he reveals himself and he detaches all the guns or whatever,
Yeah.
is that's his power? That's all he can do is just move things with his mind, but he only does it one time in the movie.
Right. And I don't. Is it confirmed that he can actually do that,
I
or
mean, he appeared out of nowhere. The guns fell apart, and then they ran away, and he revealed himself. So like,
I don't know. Maybe it was a trick. It was CGI. Um, but yeah, I guess that is a pretty helpful ability. If they can do that. But then there's a scene where they disarm people, and and they use a big magnet to get rid of those people's guns,
right,
which comes back because they have the people they go up on the top of the vehicle and they shoot the guns at the people on the outside or towards the house or whatever. Um, but yeah, the character he basically, like I said, he talks in fortune cookies. He's like, you gotta um you don't need, like, he'll say like some kind of weird stuff like um you can lead a you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, and like that kind of thing. It's like, well, I mean, obviously, basic stuff that Ben, Mr. Furious kind of points up on. Is like, you're gonna say this, and he's like, no, I'm not. He's like, basically calls him out on it, that he's kind of that people, because they brought his name up at the beginning of the movie, and then when they finally cross paths with him, they know that he's not all he's cracked up to be. Although he still helps them. Um,
well, uh, well, Ben's character is the one who doesn't really understand the point of him even being on the team, because he I guess he gets jealous that they're all following the Sphinx
right.
and going in a certain path. Like he gets really pissed whenever they're all sewing their new uniforms, and he just wants to go whoop ass and fight Casanova Frankenstein.
Right. But I would say there was kind of the point where he was no longer the leader, because he was the self-proclaimed leader of the group, and he was no longer the leader anymore. So he was upset by them, like, this guy. He just came into the picture, and now he's getting all the credit.
Hmm.
Um, which or now he's done all good. But I mean, his character is important because they do kind of hone their abilities, and they do focus on stuff. Like, I even think, because at the beginning of the movie you'll see that he's trying to like diss on the cops, because the cops were kind of making fun of him,
Yes.
and he's trying to come up with an insult for this guy, and he can't come up with anything. But as soon as like this the Sphinx starts getting involved, people are listening to him and not Mr. Furious. He starts coming up with insult. Like, I don't remember exactly what he said, but that was like something that was like witty off the top of his head. I was like, maybe without realizing it, he became more because he tried to always like, I'm angry, da, 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 but he never controlled, or he never what do you call it, focused on it. Like, he was getting angry for real, and he was coming up with stuff that he was trying to think too hard in the beginning, but now it just came natural to him. At least that's something that I noticed. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I think that when he got actually angry at this guy, that's when his wittiness, um he started to be able to control his powers a little bit more. But like, you see all through the movie, like, I would say compared to all the other people, he has like the least impressive powers, though, because he doesn't really do much. Like, he really, like, you don't see him like stop a bus. You don't see him do much. Like, he saves the day in the end, kind of. But I mean, honestly, he's the least useful out of everybody in the group, just about.
Well, I I think that Spleen
Well,
and the Sphinx are the least useful, just because, like we said earlier, he shouldn't even be in the movie, and
but I mean, his power does come into play, though. I
it
mean,
does for very childish reasons. But
yeah, For very good. Also, did you notice? Did you see aside from like some of the bad guys? Did you notice a famous director?
Yes, I did. Michael Bay.
Yep, that's correct. Michael Bay. He plays one of the
Frat boy.
Canadian hockey players,
Yeah.
and then
I,
also CeeLo Green is in there too.
I wanted to say that earlier, but we hadn't really made it to
To that
that
part, yep.
part yet. So,
Yeah, Michael Bay. Which I'm maybe he was. They were on set for another movie because 1999. I don't know if he made a movie that came out in '99, but I mean, he was probably on set like, "Hey, you want to be a cameo in this movie?" He's probably like, "Fuck yeah."
and I'm not. I don't know if you know this or not, but I watched a video about the movie the other day. The guy who directed it, and I'm not gonna say his name because he's not like he's not very famous or anything. Uh,
Don't give him any clout. Don't be like, "Hey, this guy right here made this movie. You should check it out."
um, he's literally only known for Mystery Men. Mystery Men is
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, you're talking about this director for this movie? Yeah, that's correct. He only directed this movie, and I was kind of surprised by that because there's some aesthetic choice, like I said, there's some shooting choices that he does that was kind of unique and odd, but I think it worked for this movie. I'm sure he probably could have went on to do other stuff, but yeah, no, I know I saw what you're talking about because I looked it up too, and yeah, I can't even pronounce his name. Can you pronounce his name? I tried.
uh, well, I just think his name's a little odd, so I don't even
Yeah,
bother to say it. But hold on.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't quite roll off the tongue like Michael Bay, Quentin
Right.
Tarantino, Martin Scorsese,
His name is Kinka Usher,
Kinka Usher.
and
Um,
he's only known for Mystery Men and a few commercials, and I think maybe music videos or something.
right. But that's probably how he met Michael Bay, maybe.
It's possible.
Um, but yeah, I gotta go put the clothes in the laundry. So I'll be right back. Okay.
All right. Hey.
Sorry, I had to put the because his roommates are doing laundry right now, so or we're doing laundry, so I just now put my load in. So um, anyway, where were we stopped? We stopped out at.
We were just kind of all over the place. Like, um, I think I'd mentioned how. Oh yeah, the director. He's only made Mystery Men.
Right. Yeah. Okay. But I mean, it is kind of impressive though. With even though this being his only movie, that it's kind of made a bit of an impact in the amount of people who are, I say, big stars, but who are pretty pretty popular actors at one point in time who still do stuff today. It's crazy that he got the cast that he did have because you know you got how many? I don't know if anybody there is an Oscar winner, but I think William H Macy. I think he's an Oscar winner.
What, for Shameless?
No, maybe not for Shameless, but I think he did another movie where he did win one, um, or maybe not. But I'm pretty sure there might be an Oscar winner in the thing somewhere. But you get a nice cast full of actors who probably did something that was a little bit different than what they're used to. A couple upcoming actors, Kel. Um, you got Paul Rubens kind of doing something different from Pee Wee. Um, and so I think altogether, even though his guy hasn't directed much, I mean the movie itself has had a little bit of a cult following status. I think that's all you could ask for. I'm sure the guy's still around. If he's ever if he ever does an interview where he talks about it, I don't know if you can find him on YouTube or whatever, but um, I'm sure he's probably proud of it. Um, and would you rather a guy make, like, oh, he made one really good movie and then he made 50 shitty ones? Or would you rather make a guy make, like Quentin Tarantino, he makes, if he made 2 or 3 really good movies, um, he makes like maybe 5 or 6 good movies over a span of 20 years, but he's had a lot more time to flesh the characters out and make the movies that he want to make? Or would you rather him pump out a movie every 2 years and they're just mediocre and crap? Like, what would you rather have? I mean, like I said, with like Tarantino, I know he's not going to be after this next movie. He's not going to make any more, or at least that's what he said. But I mean, if you make a movie like Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, those movies came back to back. Those are probably those are 2 of his most biggest movies ever. And then it's like, oh, maybe this guy's just a one hit wonder. And when I say it's like, well, when the movie came out, it wasn't popular. It doesn't matter if the movie came out when it was popular. The movie, The Thing, when it came out, it was not popular at all. Like, people hated it. And then over the years, it became popular. It became one of the genre favorites. Just movies that everybody sees as classics nowadays. At one time, everybody was like, "Oh, this movie's terrible. Nobody will ever watch this movie." You know what I'm saying? Um. Anyway, did you want to add something to that?
Uh, yeah, I was fascinated by the fact that it's the only thing he's made, and for it being his first movie and last movie, it's not terrible at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Um. Now they probably get. Do you think they would ever? It maybe in the future. Do you think they would ever remake this movie?
If they did, they'd be wasting their time.
Oh, for sure. I know you commented on uh, the fact that the new Toxic Avenger, the Toxic Avenger remake, was getting good reviews.
Mm-hmm.
um, which that might be a movie that we should talk about. Maybe the new one and the one and how they compare. But that movie, that's a movie I would never thought they would ever remake. If it was going to be remade by anybody, it would probably be Lloyd, and he'd probably do it by himself. But that movie got remade, and it's got really, you know, yeah, it had some odd stuff in the original, but I guess this new movie, I guess it resonates with people more somehow. I thought it would just do terrible, but I mean, if hey, you never know. Um, but I mean, yeah, the I think the movie is I think it's reached cult status, and it's a fan, a fan favorite, and I think it would have been better as a director. I think it'd be better if the movie. I think it's better if the movie you make a movie that everybody likes who watches it, but not a lot of people know about it. Or would you rather a movie that everybody knows about, but everybody just like my movie was seen by millions, but nobody likes it, or my movie's been seen by hundreds of thousands, and everybody praises it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But the movie's been around for a long time, so I think people have had a long time, a while to watch it and kind of compare it to newer movies that have, you know, that where we've seen the superhero thing done so many times. It's kind of been beaten to death, and it's been over the superhero genre is kind of saturated. To see something this old or this old that still is reaching new people every day, and it's still has there's still commentary that you can equate with modern day stuff. um I think it's more than what he could ask for, so I think it well done. If a one and done, I think this was a good one to quit on. But maybe he's doing music videos now. I don't know what he's doing, but um I think with what he presented, I wonder if there's any like extended cut or anything of that. Anything that was deleted that was just too outrageous for this movie. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure there's deleted scenes somewhere.
Yeah. I wonder. I think. I think if they were ever, like I said, to do a reboot of it, and I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying if they did animation, I think an animated adult cartoon, kind of like what they did with, like you showed me yesterday. You showed me the link to the Popeye um, animated movie that they were talking about doing,
Mm-hmm.
which is it's a shame that in watching that, if you've never seen it, I can probably put a video when this goes out on YouTube. I can probably put a link to the video down in the description, but um, I think it's probably made by the same company who did the movies like Mitchell's versus the Machines and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatball, because it has to be because it's the same. It has the same animation style, like those movies. Um, but just the little clip you showed me of that, it's like, well, we got to see Popeye and like hand drawn animation, and we got to see it, as like a live action with Robin Williams. Although that movie is very silly, um, and kind of you wouldn't think that that would transfer well to a modern audience. But I think just a little bit that we saw, I think it would have transferred well. I think it would transfer well with people whose parents are not afraid to like let their kids watch that kind of stuff. Like I think even Peanuts. Did you grow up? You grew up watching Peanuts, I'm sure, right? Like Charlie
Not
Brown and stuff like
not
that.
necessarily, no.
You didn't know? Okay, well, just agree. We'll cut this out. Agree with me. You say yes, you did. Okay. No, I was kidding. But you knew about that stuff. Or like, did you Christmas time? Did you ever watch like the Grinch animated um little feature you would do around Christmas time?
Well, I had to watch the live action one, which is a classic now, I guess.
Yeah, it's it's actually there's a lot of really cool. If you watch the behind the scenes of that movie,
Hmm.
there's a lot of technical stuff about it. Like they use these CGI, there's the early CGI, but they use like early CGI and like them like hiring like actual clown performers, because there's like a scene where they're like riding a unicycle down like a main road, like a main um, drag of the set or whatever. And it's like, somebody's got to do that. So they like hire circus performers to train these actors, and then the makeup process. And it's actually really interesting about that movie. It's just the execution and the look of it is so drab. And I still like it because I like Jim Carrey when he's not talking and running his mouth off about politics and everything. But as an actor, watching his old movies, watching his movies like The Mask, um, watching those kind of movies, and just seeing what like he's that movie, the Mask kind of reminds me of this because it talks about superheroes, and the Mask in the comics was kind of like a superhero, but kind of a villain. Like it wasn't like it was portrayed in the movie whatsoever. Um, but
Well, isn't he like a little violent in the comics?
he's very those comics are very violent. They're it's a Dark Horse comic, so it could be a little bit more violent. Now I don't know if they still make them, but they kind of got tamer and tamer as time went on. But the Jim Carrey's character, like I think Jim Carrey's character, like um, there's like scenes that they copied from the comic to the screen. But like the scene, remember the scene where he has the balloon that turns into a Tommy gun?
Yes.
There's a scene in that scene. He doesn't just like shoot up in the air and all those bikers, they're like children running away. It's like, oh no, in the movie, in the comic book, he like actually mows them down and kills everybody.
Damn.
So it's a big difference from the comic book to the screen.
Yeah.
And I think a comic kind of not really page for page, but a comic adaptation of these characters, maybe keep the same voice actors and stuff, but just put it on an animated level, I think could resonate or could be maybe not like with kids necessarily, but fans of like those type of comics and fans of like the Mystery Men and like comic books and superheroes. Those type of people will like something that's weird and kooky and with the same animation style like they did with the Popeye and those other movies. Um, but it's got to be lighthearted. Um, it can't be something like if you did it like that, you could be something like Coraline, where it's like, oh, it's bright and colorful in some parts, and then the rest of the movie is like, we're gonna put buttons over a little girl's eyes, we're gonna sew them shut, and you're gonna be stuck in hell for the rest of your life. You know, it can't be something like that. It's got to keep that lighthearted, um, kind of Johnny Bravo, early '90s cartoon with the modern look kind of
Right.
feel.
Right.
Um, but yeah,
You know,
go ahead, sir.
I wanted to say if if instead of what we would have got with The Mask with Jim Carrey, if we would have got a violent version of that, I don't think it would be liked as much, and I also don't think Jim Carrey would have been the choice to be in it.
No, I don't. I don't think so either. I think it would have taken. You would have had to have somebody who would be able to be the mask, um, to be the character of the mask as well as Stanley Ipkiss, which is the same name as the character in the comics. Um, but it would have had if it would have been the darker stuff. I don't think it would have done well because well you have the thing about the movies that came out with that actor at the time. You had Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura, and The Mask came all out at the same time. I don't know what month exactly, but you watch a character who's basically for his whole life up until that point has done pretty much nothing but comedies. Once Bitten is a comedy where he's not like the goofiest part of he's not the goofiest character in the movie, but it still has his character still does a lot of comedic things, and he's still fairly young. But then he does the stand-up career, which he does a lot of physical comedy, and The Mask is perfect for physical comedy. And if you watch some of Jim Carrey's later movies where he is more serious and he gets to actually act and not just like mug for the camera, he can bring that serious role. But I think at that time, I think at that time they wanted something that was light. They wanted something that was lighthearted from a character that was not not that. And having Jim Carrey in that role, I think gave the studio more. That's like, well, we want to adapt this comic book, but we're getting Jim Carrey in it. Jim Carrey's funny, so we got to make things funny. And so I think they wrote their script and the story partially around the actor.
Right.
I don't know who would be a good pick for a modern day mask if you were to make it darker. I don't think it would be Jim Carrey because he's a little bit older now. But if I mean, I know it's kind of on the spot, but what would you if you were to pick somebody to play a darker version of the mask, but still also they have to play the crazy, the guy behind the green mask that still can be that kind of funny villain anti-hero character. Who, if you were to have an idea who would play that character, who do you think would be?
Uh, well, I'm just gonna say I don't know who I'd want it to be, but don't ever, ever cast Jamie Kennedy ever again.
What are you talking about? Jamie Kennedy is hilarious. The Mask, The Sound of the Mask, perfect. That is a flawless movie. There is nothing wrong with that movie.
Oh God.
No, Alan Cummings. Um, he he's one of those actors who he was in everything and then he was like in nothing. I think he's stuck more with Broadway now. But he honestly I don't know who I would pick to play that character. I don't think they should make a dark version if they do live action. I don't think it would have worked live action. I think if they would have done the dark version of they did the Mask cartoon, but it was still kind of lighthearted, funny. If they would have done they should do like an HBO kind of animated version of the Mask from the comics, like pretty much page for page, and then give us like the actual, storylines of the comics. Like every season is like every season is basically an issue of the comics or something like that. Like just something that's I actually there was an idea I had done for YouTube or wanted to do for YouTube, and it was to do a cast. It was a recast of The Boys, and it basically you have the recasting was to focus around like this is what the actors um this is what the actors I would pick to pretty much play the the live action versions of the comic book. So there would be no gender change, there wouldn't be no race change. It's like you have Simon Pegg. Simon Pegg basically would play the main character of the series because he plays Huey. Is basically Simon Pegg's character, Huey in the comic books, and not Jack Quaid like it is in the TV show. And so he would be it would be the same origins, and it basically go. It would go verbatim, pretty much what the comics was, and I think I could probably send you screenshots of the people I picked, but I think I picked for Homelander. I don't even remember exactly, but I know I picked like there were some people like Josh Duhamel, Timothy Oliphant, and it would have came out, and I think I choose like it would have came out like in the mid 2000s, like when they initially had come up with the idea for the boys, it was like in the mid 2010s, I think. So this would have been actors picked in the mid 2010s, not nowadays. So that the some actors would be left out. But I don't know if I have. I don't even know if I even have that folder anymore. Oh yeah, I do. Hold on.
I lost you there for a second.
Oh,
At least I thought I did.
no. Okay, that's who I picked. I picked as the this is what the lineup I picked as for um, the characters that they would have done recasted if they were to do it as a live action show back in the mid 2010s. For the boys, it was Bradley Cooper as Homelander, um, Margot Robbie as Starlight because she was popping off at the time. Doug
Right.
Jones, basically, I think everybody has agreed if they ever do Jack from Jupiter, which they wouldn't do it in the new show because of the continuity that it's not, you know, that all the people are made up. It wouldn't make sense for the show. But anyway, Doug Jones, Jack from Jupiter, and there's the character of Bradley Cooper is essentially it's the same as Black Noir from it's basically a carbon copy of him. But I chose the guy who was play who the guy who would play Black Noir in the show. He would be covered up, but the guy who would play Black Noir in the show is Bradley Cooper's stunt double. And then if they did the reveal of Homelander, he would take it off and it would still be Bradley Cooper. But the guy who would play his stunt double, because his stunt double in real life is a guy named Cody Kaiser, which I mean he's a stuntman, so I don't know him, but that's what it would be. That's who I would pick to pick those ones. And then Sandra Bullock was another character, Queen Maeve, and Austin Taylor Johnson, the guy who's kick ass. He was going to be my pick for A Train.
And Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson. And that's not because he was Quicksilver. I mean, he looks like the character from the comic book. You know, minus the beard, I guess. But I guess sorry, we got off on a big side note, but at the end of the movie, we see all the characters come together. They all meet the villains, and before we get to the very end, I guess we kind of already talked about. I guess spoiler alert: the character Casanova Frankenstein dies in a very glorious fashion. He falls down a big energy beam generator deal, and basically it turns in like a CGI glob of goo, what it looks like. And before that, you get all these gangs that are kind of meeting up at this house, the Scooby-Doo looking fucking house. And you got what I think there was a group called the Furries. I'm pretty sure. I'm not kidding. I think there's a group called the Furries, which didn't look like the Furries nowadays.
No. I think that was like a '60s female
probably.
group.
I think so. There was like a group of Asian. There was a group of like Asian guys. They're like not necessarily ninjas, but I think they were like supposed to be like the Yakuza types. You have the '70s, the Disco Boys with Eddie Izzard and those type of guys. You have CeeLo Green and his group of thugs, and the Canadian hockey players. Like it's just random weird stuff, weird choices. But I guess it's for the better of the movie because we talk about it nowadays, or we're talking about it now. So it's just something for people to talk about. But I feel like every a lot of like '60s stuff. Like look at the characters of Batman in like the '60s TV show. Like you get the Penguin, they dressed as like sailors, you know. It's like, or they have like costumes, like everybody's costume coordinated. It's just that wouldn't happen in real life. So you got all these. We're like hardcore gangs, but we're dressed up like, you know, we're hockey players. It's just or like the Warriors, I guess. You know, it's just kind of odd. But what?
I wanted to say, because we talked about Michael Bay earlier and the gangs and all that, and you mentioned this has nothing to do with that. You mentioned, you know, Ben knocked Casanova Frankenstein off the railing and he fell in that beam thing. Well, about 30 minutes prior to that.
Oh yeah, by the way, Captain Amazing dies.
Yes.
I guess they get killed by the heroes, which kind of is unfortunate.
Yes. When you say heroes, you mean Blue Raja.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't was it the Shoveler? Didn't William H. Macy didn't he have a pair of glasses that he pointed up to the actor, and he's like, is that Lance? Are you Lance Hunt? And the guy's like, I am. And then Captain Mason's like, nah, I'm just kidding. And basically, it's like he admitted to it, but then he's like, "Oh, which I think was kind of funny."
Right,
And the
because
Chevalier believed him because he's Captain Amazing.
right once he said that, William H Macy kind of gave a facial expression like, I believe that you are Lance Hunt and Captain Amazing, but after that, because of the toggle switches, it doesn't even matter.
Right. Which good use of practical effects. I mean, they did use. I mean, besides the CGI like transformation where he turns into the big goo mess, that's practical afterwards. So, I mean, they did have some effort by doing that. They didn't just cheap out and make him like turn into like a puddle of something.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean basically the same beam that kills Captain Amazing kills Casanova Frankenstein. Um, and I think was it big explosion? I think the house exploded.
It did, yeah.
Right, it exploded, and then the news comes, and the at the end it's like, what do you call your little group? And they can't decide on a name, and so the news anchor basically gives drops the name of the movie,
The
and it's
mystery.
like
Yeah,
these mystery men, which by the way, that's offensive because there was a woman in that group too, and they said mystery men. It's the mystery people. Okay. Um. So, but yep, that's basically the end of the movie, and then All Star plays, and the rest is history. So,
yeah.
all that being said, um, I think it's pretty safe to say that we both like the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think I gave it a 5-star review on my letterbox. What do you? If you were to give it a star ranking, what would you give it on your ranking?
Uh, Whenever I rewatched it, a, I gave it a solid 4 out of 5.
4 out of
But
5.
yeah, but in some ways, it's a 5 out of 5 for me. I just did a 4 out of 5 as a critic rating.
Right.
So if it was my honest like enjoyment rating, it's a 5 out of 5.
Right. And I don't go when I watch a movie. I don't watch movies that I know I'm gonna automatically hate. Like I guess I had to watch the Star Wars movies, the prequels and all that stuff. And then I had to watch the Rise of Skywalker. So I did have to subject myself to that, but I gave an honest rating. Like I tried to go into it with looking to find stuff that was good. I don't like there are certain movies that everybody loves. Like everybody loves Jurassic Park. Everybody loves movies like The Matrix. But me, as somebody who didn't grow up around the hype, who didn't grow up at that time where I'm like, oh my god, this looks like real. Like it looks like the dinosaurs are gonna jump out of the screen at me. Like I didn't grow up around that time. I didn't grow up around the hype. So there's a lot of movies that people like that I don't have the same feeling towards. And so I don't. I go into movies trying to find the best and stuff. If I don't like it, I don't like it. But I'm gonna give my honest opinion. It's gonna be my opinion, whether I'm a critic or whether I'm just somebody watching the movie. So I gave it a 5 out of 5 because there's a lot of effort that's put in, and there's a lot of effort that's put in, and there's a good story there, and it's fun to watch if you're watching with friends. Um, I would say watch it with friends. I wouldn't say watch it with unless you're just a couple that's kind of weird in general. I wouldn't say watch it with a couple because there's a lot of fighting involved, like men, female. You're a girl. Just if you're gonna butt heads about that kind of stuff in your relationship, I wouldn't watch it with a girlfriend or whatever. So, but I'd say if you have a group of friends, you want to watch a movie, find something to throw on and get drunk to, and enjoy something. I think it'd be a good. That's the type of movie that this is. Um, and I think I gave it a 5 out of 5 myself. Um, but yeah, what do you? Let me know what y'all think. I'm gonna put a poll on this on Spotify. Let me know if you think this movie's good or if you think it's bad, and just let me know your thoughts in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube. Um, but I guess for a little bit, we're going to talk about some other underrated, maybe not underrated, but just some of our favorite movies of like the late '90s and they came out around the same time. So I think you had a list of some stuff you want to talk about. So I'm gonna let you start this one off.
Okay. Yeah. Some of the underrated films of the '90s that I'm gonna say, you probably never seen them before, so it's kind of.
I might know of them, or I might have heard of them, but um, I don't know. Depending on what you say. I know you told me about some that you liked. So just tell me off the list, and I'll tell you if I've seen them or I heard of them or whatever.
Um. Hmm. Well, yeah. I'll name this, and I'll explain the premise to you, and maybe you can, you know, develop your opinion on it from there. Uh, it, it's from 1998. It's a romance and a drama. It's called Buffalo 66, and it has Christina Ricci in it, and she's not the lead or anything, but
Right.
the
She's this
re
what came out what 19 you said 1996, 1998.
1998.
1998. So she's way older than I am, but am I allowed to say that is she fuckable in the? Can I say that? I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that.
Is she fuckable in the
Is
movie?
is she fuckable in the movie? Like, I
I
mean,
mean, I mean, do you think Christina Ricci is attractive?
you're asking the wrong person then. Um,
Well,
but
I personally don't think that.
well, I mean, there are some movies where she does look pretty decent, but um, she no, isn't that with Matt Dillon? Um, or is it Matt Dillon?
No, it's not Matt Dillon.
Who's in that? Who's the lead? Because there's a guy who's a lead as well.
Do you remember the title of the movie I said?
Buffalo 66.
Yeah, it's a very strange individual. Um, he he also directed the the movie. His name is Vincent Gallo, and he he looks like a creep. Uh, so and he's not an actor. He's not really an actor. Hmm.
He's not an actor. Was he like a first time actor or something? And they put him in the movie.
No, no, no. He's a director, and he's in Buffalo 66 as the lead.
So the director of the movie
Yes.
is the actor or the main lead in the movie. It's kind of like Quentin, or well, actually Robert Rodriguez directed it, but Quentin Tarantino wrote it. It's like from Quentin Tarantino's like the lead, one of the main leads in From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, although he didn't direct it, but basically it's basically a Tarantino Rodriguez kind of co-pilot in a way. Um, but no, I don't think I've seen it. I've not seen the movie itself, but I've seen it advertised. It looks like one of those movies that it looks like it came out in 1966, like it says.
Yeah.
Um, it just looks like an older, like kind of in between the grindhouse era of filmmaking, kind of era of Hollywood, from like the posters and stuff like that.
Right. It was so the style was so old that whenever I tried to get my grandma to watch it with me, I asked her, "What year do you think this came out?" And just because the title says Buffalo 66 doesn't mean it came out in 66. But her immediate response was 1966. and there is no sign of it being set in that year anywhere in the movie because cars, the clothing people wear, the way people talk, everything about it speaks.
How are they supposed
Like,
to talk in '66? I mean, I know people say there's different expressions people use, but it's like,
well, yeah, but you get some outside shots, and you see a car from frickin' 1995. Why would you assume the movie's from 1966?
well, she didn't
Where
know.
where'd the car come from?
Well,
The
I mean,
future.
they're everybody. There are people who have older cars in newer movies. I mean, you know, if
Yeah, but that's a car from the past, not the future.
right. So, oh yeah. By the way, they're driving the 1999 Buick, the 1995 Buick in the movie that came out in 1966. But no, from like the posters and stuff that I've seen of it, and like I said, the name it feels like it came out in that era of like movies between the '70s and the '80s. That was just like we Hollywood's out of ideas. Let's just make it Buffalo '66. Okay, that's the movie. We played at a movie theater, some shitty fucking downtown movie theater.
Right. Well,
And I'm not saying the movie is shitty. I'm just saying that this seems like that type of idea. But is it good? Like, is it good? Is it worth watching? Or what do you say?
well, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
It's artsy,
artsy. Yeah.
but like not in a bad way. It's
Is it
not
like
like
Tarantino esque? Is it kind of like that, or what is it? Or if you
uh,
were to equate it to another director, another famous director, who would you equate it to?
honestly, in my opinion, it has its own.
Has its own style.
Yeah, and it's an hour and 50 minutes long. And whenever I turned it on for the first time, I almost gave up on it. Like like I said, there are certain things that I attempt to watch, and within the first 10 minutes, I'm already bored with them.
Right.
Well, because of the poster and the premise and everything, I let it continue, and by the end of it, it became one of my favorites, like in an instant.
Right.
Um, and yeah, the look of it itself, like the cinematography and just the grimy look of it, does look like a movie straight out of the 70s. Um,
Yeah. I mean, it could be a creative choice. A lot of, I mean, I don't think they started using digital until like the mid 2000s. So, I mean, everybody was still using film. But even in stuff that I've made or that I've tried to like do some testing with through my editing stuff, I still what I'll do is I'll take like footage of like outside and I'll change the color of it and I'll make it look like a movie that came out in like the '70s. And there's like a grain filter that I have that I put over it, and it looks like a movie that was filmed in the '70s, but it's filmed 2023. So a lot of that, I think, some of that could be a style choice nowadays, but back then it was probably because we have a no budget movie. We're going to use the film that we got, and if the film's like low grade quality, I mean that's kind of what you're stuck with. Um, but I mean, would you? I guess you recommend the movie to people to watch. If is there certain stuff to look out for in there? Like, is there something that could be for everybody?
yeah, it's not the type of thing that just any ordinary person could watch. I went in knowing that it wasn't going to be an average. It's it's not for a normal average person. It's unique, like the style, the music, the way it's shot. There's like um, I don't know. I'm probably not the best one to explain it because it's been a while since I've seen it.
Right. But I kind of get your thing. If you're into that kind of um, if it's like the dark content, like the that kind of stuff, you would probably like it. Somebody with that people who like those kind of like darker movies that deal with like serious topics and are not like trying to sugarcoat anything would like that kind of stuff. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. And it is it okay if I read the synopsis to you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so it says convict Billy Brown, which Billy Brown is Vincent Gallo. He dreads going home from prison that he tries to get back inside. In desperation, Billy kidnaps Layla. He kidnaps Christina Ricci and convinces her to impersonate his wife. So he goes home to his parents, and his mom is played by Angelica Houston, and his freaking mom is like obsessed with football, and she won't stop. She won't give him any attention or Christina Ricci any attention because she's just worried about the football game, and she's screaming at the TV, and it was just I know there are people that are really like that. Um, and his I don't know. You'd have to see it for yourself. But his dad's kind of weird too. Um, and like I said, the movie's artsy. There is some weird artsy stuff that happens in it. Um, and also Mickey Rourke is in it for like I don't know 5 minutes.
Yeah. No. Mickey Rourke in the '90s. I mean, I don't know what he was. I don't know what he was doing. It's probably getting his face fixed. But no, I mean, it sounds like an interesting. It's an interesting, plot. Um, Angelica Houston. I'm trying to think. When did that movie The Witches come out? Early 1990. It was probably filmed in '89. I think it came out in 1990. But she was she looks less like the what do you call it, the Hamburglar
Hmm.
than she does now. Like she looks pretty. I know she's older, and I hate to pick on her and everything, but she just looks a little rough now.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
no, Buffalo 66. We'll have to add that to the list. Um, I'm gonna tell you one now. This okay. It says came out in 2000, but I'm sure it was probably filmed in the 90s. I mean, had to been filmed in the late 90s. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a movie called Drowning Mona. Have you heard of that?
Drowning Mona.
Drowning Mona. It's got Danny DeVito. This is just some of it. Danny DeVito, Bette Midler, Will Ferrell, Casey Affleck, Jamie Lee Curtis. What's his name? William Fichtner. Yeah, William Fichtner. Let's see if I can pull up the rest of the cast. It's got a hell of a cast. Yeah, this is just Danny DeVito, Bette Midler, Nev Campbell, Will Ferrell, Casey Affleck, Jamie Lee Curtis, William Fichtner, Brian Doyle Murray, Melissa McCarthy. I'm sure an early role.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Peter or Paul Ben Victor. That's two. That's three first names. What the fuck? Um, he's this guy. That's a guy. He's been in like a lot of those movies where he does like cop stuff.
Yeah.
Where he basically plays a cop most of his career. Um, and then another guy called Yul Vasquez. He's in a bunch of stuff. But no, it's a movie. It's about this. No, this is the synopsis on. This is the synopsis on Google. A recently deceased Mona Dearly, played by Bette Midler, was many things: an abusive housewife, a domineering mother, a loudmouth neighbor, and a violent Malik. I don't know what that says. So when her car and her corpse are discovered in the Hudson River, Police Chief Wyatt Rash, played by Danny DeVito, immediately suspects murder rather than an accident. But since the whole community in New York shares a deep hatred for this spiteful woman, Rash finds a murder investigation overwhelmed by the potential suspects. So, essentially, everybody hates this bitch, played by Bette Midler, which I agree. I hate Bette Midler. I've never even met the woman, but um, she basically plays an awful person. Like she yelling at her kids and her treats her husband like trash. And it's a movie. I think if I remember correctly, it starts with her like driving her car off the bridge, and which is the best way to start a movie with Bette Midler in it, by killing her off. And she and basically the whole town kind of is not like shaken up, but they're just kind of surprised. And then over the course of the movie, we see things start to add up, like um, people cutting the brake lines on their vehicle, and that not affecting her, but somebody does something, and just the whole cast of actors. Um, they kind of have like this awkward, like there's scenes where like Casey Affleck is like he's like envisioning like fighting her, like it's kind of crazy, but it's a very fun movie. It's a comedy. It's like a dark comedy
Right.
because they're kind of um they're kind of telling their stories about this woman, and it's just kind of an underrated dark comedy from that came out in the early 2000s. Um, or I say late. It's basically a '90s movie because it was everything. It came out January. It says initial release January 2000. So, as I say, it came out. They made it '90 in the late '90s. Came out like right at the beginning of the 2000s.
Right.
But it's got a good cast of characters. Everybody kind of has a role Everybody kind of has a role in the movie, and like you see when you see Danny DeVito, he's like this. He's a cop, so he starts to like question people, and everything doesn't begin to add up, and people are trying to like cover their tracks, and it all just kind of falls apart in the end. But it's a fun movie, and I don't know, I don't know if you would like it, but as the movie, it takes a little while to like. It might take a little bit to get into, but I think it's just a fun like kind of mist comedy that came out around that time.
Right.
Um, but I mean, I think for the concept alone, I mean, if you want to see Bette Midler, so there's 3 movies where Bette Midler dies, and it's the Hocus Pocus movies, and then this movie. And if you just want to watch it for that, I recommend it honestly. Um, but it's actually like a funny little kind of hidden comedy. And I'm kind of weird when it comes to that because I don't like cringy stuff. Like I like American Pie, like those type of movies, but there's a lot of cringy comedy in that. This doesn't have any of that. I think it's just one of those things where it's like, holy crap, did that just happen? You know, and so I like it for that. But it's one of those ones I recommend. That sort of I don't think a lot of people know about. It's free to watch on Tubi. So if anybody out there listen to this, it's free to watch on Tubi. And is Buffalo 66, is that available to watch on Tubi as well?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. But anyway, that was one of my first picks. Do you have another one that you recommend?
Yeah. It's something that I saw recently, and I'm gonna talk about it for just a brief moment because it's actually hated. Like it, it's hated for sure from the stuff that I read. Um, it's She's All That from 1999, and it has Freddie Prinze Jr., Paul Walker's in it, and the lead girl, I don't even know who she is, but um, do you know who Freddie Prinze Jr. is?
He's probably the son of Freddie Prinze Sr.
He plays Fred
I know. I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. His dad was in the movie, the TV show Chico and the Man. Freddie Prinze Sr. He died like at like 20 years old. Like he died really young.
Oh,
But yes, Freddie Prinze Jr. Was this one of his early movies?
I'd say so. It's pre Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
So it says high school hotshot Zach Seiler is the envy of his peers, but his popularity declines sharply when his teen cheerleader girlfriend Taylor leaves him for a sleazy reality television star named Brock Hudson. And what I didn't believe in this was that Brock Hudson is played by Matthew Lillard, and
Oh.
the girl dumps Freddie Prinze Jr. for Matthew Lillard. Are you fucking kidding me? Like what?
Huh.
But and Matthew Lillard plays a reality TV show douchebag like really well. But it says desperate to revive his fading reputation, Seiler agrees to a seemingly impossible challenge. He has 6 weeks to gain the trust of a nerdy outcast named Lainey Boggs and helps her to become the school's next prom queen. Now, I just thought this movie was just like heartwarming. It may not be good, but it made me smile a lot. Um, it I don't know. I enjoy certain romance movies, and this was genuinely like cute. I, I don't use that word very often.
Right. No, I get it. Um, there's a lot of movies that people there you'd be surprised what some people um find endearing. Um, some people find it's like why do you like that movie? It's like well I remember. It's like why do you like that? It's like well I used to watch it with my dad and so it's like I remember we talked about the movie Son-in-Law and which is okay a lot of Pauly Shore movies are maybe not at the time were underrated, but people might say Pauly Shore is annoying, and I would agree with you. I mean, yeah, it kind of is, but there are certain movies that we watched when I was a kid, and everybody in my family we all watched the movie Son-in-Law. And the Son-in-Law, this girl, she lives in a small town in Kansas, I believe, and she goes to California to go to school, go to college, and she runs into Polly Shore. And this girl, she's a country girl. She's trying to start her life in a big city like that, and she's like, she can't, she doesn't, what do you call it? She just isn't vibing with the culture around the area, and so she wants to go back home. But Polly Shore shows her the way, and kind of breaks her out of her shell, and she becomes like a more what do you call it? Not to say enlightened because that sounds like they try to change her way of thinking, but she was more open to certain things, and she kind of picked up the lingo and all that stuff. And then he goes, it becomes it starts with her becoming like a fish out of water, trying to get into his life that lifestyle, and then soon after she gets into his lifestyle, she's got to come with her back to when she comes back for Thanksgiving to meet her family, and so he goes back to the family and he's like he's a fish out of water where now he doesn't know anything about the farm life. He's lived on the West Coast his whole life, and so and then you get all of the family members. They're like, oh, he's weird, California kid, you know, and so it's fun to see like this guy who is nothing like any of these people he's ever met in his life, be so welcoming and so friendly to these people, and then after him helping them out and kind of breaking them out of their shell because there's like a whole thing with their family and our parents and they kind of have a Ricky Lucy situation where they sleep in separate beds and it's a whole thing, and so he breaks them out of their shell and they grow to like him, and it's just a movie that takes place around the holiday that we all watch, and I really like it, but some people might watch the same movie and be like, this movie's fucking stupid, like this movie is annoying, Pauly Shore is annoying, I hate him, but I'll watch it and be like, this movie is hilarious, and I'll probably watch it for the rest of my life. So a long story short, um, we all have things that we like, and so it's good that you found enjoyment in something that people might say that's dumb, But anyway,
Yeah, because Freddie Prinze Jr. uh is hold on. I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Yeah, he agrees to this challenge given to him by Paul Walker. And Paul Walker is a douchey football player too. Um, it, he's given a challenge to pick the most unpopular girl in their high school, and it happens to be this cute, small, smart girl who paints, and he's absolutely nothing like her. But once he gets farther into the challenge, he starts falling in love with her. And apparently that's like some kind of 90s trope or something. Because there's a lot of comments on Letterboxd about that trope. Um,
I'm sorry, about the what?
like the guy getting with the unpopular girl, and then once he's with her for a little bit, he falls in love with her.
I mean, yeah, I guess maybe in those type of movies. I never understood that. Um, People, it's like you're popular around the school. Why don't you get with the one that nobody wants? I was like, oh, I mean, and it's always funny because it's never like you get some guy who's like a good, and because if he's popular, he's probably a pretty decent looking dude, right?
Mm.
And then you get the other girl, and it's like she's unpopular, she's dorky, she's nerdy, and she's like this supermodel, and she's like wearing glasses, and it's like, oh, she wears fucking glasses, oh, she's ugly.
Exactly.
And then she
Exactly.
takes the glasses off, and she wears like a pretty dress and makeup, and all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, and they just
Yeah,
nut in there.
because there's literally a makeover scene in this movie where Freddie Prinze Jr.'s sister gives the girl a makeover, and she suddenly doesn't have glasses on, and she's wearing a dress just like you described, and suddenly everybody's staring at her. Well, I'm just gonna let you know she was already attractive, and
Right,
glasses don't make a person ugly,
right.
and it her look is different. You know, her hair's shortened, she's got makeup on, no glasses, wearing a dress, but her personality is exactly the same. So I don't understand why do people have such an infatuation with looks? You know, it's
Well, I mean, because
look
it's just everybody. Everybody has an image. Everybody has an image that they want to uphold, and if you're a good looking guy, why would you date somebody who, or if you're it's like if you're a cheerleader, you're not going to be dating a guy who's a fan of Dungeons and Dragons. Maybe not when you're a kid because you're kind of superficial. You want to date. It's like I want to have status. Everybody's always worried about status and worried about on the food chain of everything is. You know what I'm saying? But
right,
like, and people have said it before. It's like one day the people who you say are going to be geeks, they're nerds. They're like, oh, you're not going to get no bitches. Those are the people who become the Bill Gates of the world. They become the Jeff Bezos and the Elon Musk. The guys you wouldn't have thought twice about talking to are now the same guys who are running the world and
right.
the most richest men to ever live. And so the movie, a movie that kind of made fun of that, and it's literally she takes her glasses off, like she's with her friend, and it's kind of a spoof on. It's called Not Another Teen Movie. It's one of those spoof movies,
Yeah,
and
I've
you've
seen
seen it. And yeah, there's a scene where there's basically a character that's a ripoff of John Cryer's character in Pretty in Pink, and she takes. I'm pretty sure it's him who she does in front of, but she literally all she does is takes off her glasses, and he's like, "Oh, you're hot," and it, I don't know. It's just one of those stupid tropes, and yeah, I understand that,
right.
but no, it's just kind of it's just weird how that was a thing, and I'm sure there's stuff they're doing now that I'm sure people are gonna be like, oh, that was a trope of the 2020s. Everybody was doing this, and they. So
Right.
I just can't think of it now. I haven't watched very many movies of the last couple of years because of everything. So I really don't know.
Um, but anyway, She's All That from 1999. I do recommend it for anybody who likes to. It's a couple movie, to be honest.
This is one of those movies you watch with your girlfriend.
Yes.
No, you wanna. Yeah, I don't know because I don't know. That might be a good one because it's like you were popular in school, yeah, especially if you're somebody who if they did go to school together and they were like on the different sides of the spectrum, that might come into question. So
Right.
what I'm saying is don't date above your caliber. Always date low, never date above. I was kidding. But no, I don't care about any of that stuff. You know. And when I went to school though, I honestly did like think that mattered, but I just got to know is like my mom, she was like my dad, and then they celebrated their reunions. And you know what I learned? Everybody gets old, they get fat, they have kids, and life goes on. Nobody, it doesn't matter. You know.
Right. Um, I wanted to read one of these comments that I thought was hilarious. Uh, it says, and it's a 3-star rating. Somebody gave it 3 stars, and it says, "Don't put Matthew Lillard, Freddie Prinze Jr., and Sarah Michelle Gellar in your movie if you don't want it to remind me how much I'd rather be watching Scooby Doo." So,
Yep. Honestly, Scooby Doo is probably better than is. Uh, it doesn't. It may not stand the test of time when it comes to like maybe just little stuff, but like the Scooby Doo movies, they're actually kind of good. Like nowadays, people watch them. They're like, "Oh, this." It's like the effects are like terrible and all this stuff. It's like it's a Scooby Doo movie. Like who honestly cares? But everybody always says that they should maybe not do it, not a reboot, but everybody says that you know a reunion is in order, a Scooby Doo reunion.
right. Um, I actually rewatched Scooby Doo not too long ago, and I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Um, and I gave She's All That a 3 out of 5.
Right.
But I gave Scooby Doo that rating for nostalgia reasons. So
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Um, Going through, there was a list of movies that came out around this time. Everybody was talking about Office Space. Like, there's a lot of lists of underrated movies. Maybe at the time, but nowadays, I always hear everybody talk about it like it's one of the greatest comedies. And I would say it's overrated, but it it uh, I don't know. I mean, I think if you work in that lifestyle, if you work in that office atmosphere, I think you'll quite you'll appreciate a lot more because like yeah, that's how things are, But there's not a lot of people nowadays who really worked in an office, setting. Everybody, so not a lot of people know what that's like. Like movies that work in like restaurants, like I'll know about that because I've worked in a lot of restaurants. So it's like I've had that experience. But office, the office setting, I've never had to go through that stuff. So I think if you've been in that atmosphere before, if you worked in that atmosphere before, you'll appreciate it a lot more than you would if you haven't. But I mean, good cast of characters.
yeah, I watched that sometime last year maybe.
Yeah, I've
Um,
seen reviews of it. I've never seen the movie altogether.
right. I think there's only one memorable scene in there, and they've made a joke about it in Family Guy. I'm not gonna say what it is though. Uh, yeah, the setting of being in an office doesn't resonate with me, so I
Yeah.
didn't necessarily think it was that appealing.
I can't I can't never really think of a movie that has to do with like a fast food place. Like there's scenes like in fast food places, like what is it?
Or like Clerks 2 or
I was thinking something like Good Burger, Clerks
uh,
2, yeah. Um, what was it? Half Baked. Have you ever seen Half Baked?
Mm.
That's another. I don't know if it's underrated, but that's another really good movie that came out in like 99, 98, around that time.
Right.
That's a funny comedy. But no, in that movie, the guy he goes to the microphone to the PA and he's like, "Fuck you." He's like quitting. He's like, "Fuck you, you're cool, fuck you, I quit," and then leaves. And honestly, that's how I felt going every day to work. when I worked at those type of places, because there are people who go to those places. And there are people who go to those places and they just treat employees like crap because it's like the customer's always right. And it's like, you know what, I'm just gonna get right. I'm gonna get my fist right in your face because you're pissing me off so bad. And like, I don't know if I've told you this story, but when I worked at Arby's, I worked there, and I was making this lady's sandwich, and she normally comes in there and she's kind of rude, she's just older lady. And so one day she wanted her sandwich a different way. So when we asked, she brought it up there and said that we wanted to remake it. So we asked her, "Is this how you want to make it?" And I clarified with her, "Is this how you want it done?" And she didn't say anything. She just stared at me. She stared at me and shook her and nodded. And I'm like, okay. And then she did one of those hand motions, like she put her hand up, like she shooed me away like I was a dog. Like she was like, go, and looked at me like, yeah, now go make my food. And what I wanted to do in that moment, and I wanted to reach across the counter and I wanted to bash her head over the table because she pissed me off. I was like, but I couldn't because I didn't want to go to jail, first of all. And I honestly, if I was the manager, because the manager wasn't there, the general manager wasn't there. But if she said we told her about it, and she said if she had been there, she would have made that. She would have got her a ban from the restaurant for treating her employees like that.
This is. I don't know if you're gonna get this reference whenever I say it. I mean, I just mentioned what it's from, but it has to do with fast food. It, like, let's say that were to happen again or some similar scenario. You know the scene in Clerks 2 where what's his name? Shit. Have you seen My Name Is Earl?
Yeah, I know. Jason Lee, is that his name?
Yeah, yes. He walks in there and he's talking shit to Daryl and or Randall, I mean. And Randall goes back there and makes his food and he slaps flies on the freaking patty and dips the cup full of ice in the freaking urinal. And I imagine that people who work at fast food actually ruin people's food if that person pisses them off.
No, I've never, and I'll honestly say this. The worst thing we did was a guy was being rude because when I worked at Arby's, we used to sell these 2 for $6 fish sandwiches, and the guy they had the spicy version, and the guy's like, "I want the spicy version," and he, I think they gave him one spicy and one regular, and he's like, I want the one spicy one. And I think he said one spicy. I think the person who heard it heard one spicy, and so they gave him one regular, one spicy. And so he comes in, and and the guy comes in and is like, y'all messed up my sandwich and da 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 da. And so the manager, this is the general manager of this store. I'm not going to say her name, Jennifer. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna. But she's like, okay. She's like, I want. He does. I want no jalapenos on it. So they make the sandwich, and she's like, I want no jalapenos on it. And so one of the guys got in front of her, in front of where she was making it, and she took the spoon. She took the jalapenos off, and she poured the juice on the bun, like just the jalapeno juice on the bun. because the guy was being mean. But she didn't spit in it. She didn't like put it between her butt cheeks or nothing like that. She did that, and so, but the guy was being really rude, and he should have asked politely. Like, we would have made another one. Like, it wouldn't have been an issue, but he wanted to go and raise all kinds of hell because because he can, because the customer's always right.
Right.
And so, but I've never personally, and I've never seen anybody personally mess with anybody's food, like spit in it or do anything of that nature. But if you say you want extra mayonnaise and you're a dick about it, we're gonna dump half the tub of mayonnaise on there because you're an asshole.
Right.
Don't be rude to your fast food employees because they have the power.
Especially don't be rude to Randall, because, like, oh, God. I can't even imagine.
But no, I mean, don't be rude to those people in general because, like me, I try to be nice. Like, even when it's people like DoorDash, like doing DoorDash and stuff like that. By having them deliver the food, I'm not like, say, if they're a little bit later than what anticipated, I'm not gonna be the guy like, man, says you was here supposed to be here like 5 minutes ago. It took you this long to. I'm not that type of person. I've worked in those type of jobs. I understand what those people are going through, and if it takes a little bit longer at a place because it's busy and it's taking just a little bit longer than it should, I'm just like, it's whatever. We'll get to this, But there's other people in my family who are big Karens, and it's like, if it's not happening right away, then it's a big fucking deal, and that's just not me. I don't care. I understand. I know what they go through on a daily basis and the type of people they got to deal with. And so, but if you're if you're out there and you're listening and you're those type of people, and you're like, well, they should do their job right. How about be nice? Say, hey, I wanted ranch. I didn't get ranch with my meal. Can I get a ranch, please? We don't have any. I'm sorry. Do you want honey mustard? Do you want, just be nice. Don't be an asshole. And there's so many people who lose sight of that. It's like, well, they serve us. They're supposed to serve the people. And it's like, I'm going to serve you these hands if you don't, And so I don't mess around, man. There's so many times where I probably would have been in jail if it hadn't been for the laws in this place, because people piss me off so bad. People being rude. This month, like, when it comes to I'll say this and then we'll finish. But there was a time where I was supposed to give a woman change, or we didn't have change because they didn't have any. The truck hadn't come in to give us the change that we had for the day, and so as this woman gave me like a 10, I gave her like 9, or I gave her like $8, and like, I think it was 15. I gave her a nickel, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't have any. I'm sorry, I don't have any dimes, because we didn't have change. I was like, I don't have any. I have a nickel, and I got dimes, and I didn't have any more nickels, and I didn't have any pennies or anything like that. And so I was like, I'm sorry, I don't have any dimes. I have 8, 5. I don't have 15. And this woman's like, well, that's not my problem. And I go, well, I'm sorry. This is what I get. She's like, your change. Like, I want my change. And I'm like, I don't have the change. This is what I have. I'm sorry. And she's like, well, that's not my problem. And so I gave her her money back. Well, it's not my problem either. Gave her fucking money back and told her. And she's like, you're rude. And I go, so are you. I said that to her. I was like, she's like, you're rude. And I said, so are you. And she got a huffy and walked away. And then one day she did the same. She came back to the drive-thru, and I told her, I was like, I don't have change. And she's like, well, y'all need to get somebody. Y'all need to get somebody to do something about that. And I told her, I was like, well, you tell the bank they need to get here so you can get your change, so you don't cry. So you don't cry about it.
Yeah.
And people just are just rude. Like, they'll complain about anything to make them feel better. It's like, well, I harassed the teenager at the McDonald's today because they didn't give me 10 cents for my change. It's like, wow, you're good on you, Karen.
Hey, I'll be right back. All right.
All right, I gotta go.
Huh?
I'll be right back too because I gotta get something.
All right. All right, I'm back.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm back.
Me too. Sorry, the dryer's still going. For the other guy's clothes. But anyway, um, yeah, no, but yeah, and in short, when it comes to those type of jobs, don't be mean. Just don't be rude to the employees. It's not going to end well for you. And if you go to a Waffle House and do that to somebody, you might die. It just might happen, depending on what time though. 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, they'll definitely kill you, and they'll put you in the dumpster. Um, but anyway, do you have another one? That you want
Yeah, yeah. I do have another one, but I wanted to ask you if you've seen it before, only if you've seen it, do you recommend um, The Mummy?
the Brendan Fraser Mummy?
Yeah.
I have seen it. Um, I think it's a fun adventure movie. It's like Indiana Jones for a modern generation, in a way. Um, I think aside from some of the effects of the time, just the digital effects, which I mean, can't fault them. But aside from some of that, it's still like a fun, action movie. Brendan Fraser, you know, now his Academy Award winning actor.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's very well done. He's great in the movie, and he's one of those actors who could have been another, you know, popular leading man, if it wasn't for everything in his personal life happening, and then his. I think he had a couple injuries from these movies, which is why um, he hasn't been doing a whole lot of stuff. But yeah, no, I like the movie. I recommend it.
All right. Because it's one of those 1999 movies that I would consider watching because I'm never gonna watch The Matrix. Like there's nothing about it that intrigues me enough to turn it on and watch all of it. Um, but something about The Mummy just seems like something that I would enjoy.
I mean, but yeah, when the Matrix, there's a lot of like cerebral. There's a lot of cerebral stuff. Like, is it really happening? Is we're all in the system and the world's gonna end? And the mummy's just like, there's a mummy. He's gonna take over things. This is what happened. You got the guy. He's the hero. He gets the girl in the end. And it's just like kind of like I would say copy and paste adventure movie, but it's an adventure movie. The Matrix is like we're gonna make you think. We leave the theater and you're like, wow, I never thought about it like that. We live in the Matrix. Like everybody says, we live in the Matrix nowadays. That's a common saying that everybody says. And yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the Matrix, aside from some of the state of the art technical stuff that they had,
Hmm.
that Wachowski's used, a lot of the camera stuff, and I mean, it's very well made movie. There's just not a whole lot of substance there, in my opinion, because like I said, I didn't grow up around the hype of the movie. Maybe if I grew up in the '90s and watched the movie, and I would be like, wow, that was amazing. And but nowadays, now that I haven't grown up around all that stuff, it doesn't appeal to me. I mean, Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne are some of the best actors. But I think that Keanu Reeves, in some of those movies, like he's way better in Speed. I think if you're gonna watch an action movie with him, watch any of the John Wick movies. Speed, you know, he's 10 times better in that movie than he is in The Matrix.
Right,
Um,
and definitely not Knock Knock, huh?
I've never seen it. I know. Well, I forgot um who talked about that movie. There was a movie. Oh no, it was Mr. Gigi. He's
I've seen him. I've seen him.
yeah, he did a video about that movie. So it's funny you bring that up, but no, I've never seen that movie. I know the premise because he talks about it in that video, but
Right.
I mean
To
that's
to be to be totally honest, I didn't really laugh through it like some people do. I thought it was supposed. I mean, it's supposed to be genuinely serious. Like it's a thriller or something.
but it's kind of like a dark comedy in a
I
way.
mean, I guess, but not purposely. Um,
It's like Evil Dead. Like when Evil Dead came out, it was supposed to be like this serious horror movie, cabin horror movie. And then when people
right.
watched it, they're like, "Oh, this is goofy and weird and silly." And then in the later movies, that's when they really honed in on that. And they even kind of did it in the second one. But to me, the second one is good, but
Yeah,
the
it's
first Evil Dead is still like I still think it's kind of creepy, But
yeah. The first Evil Dead is straight up horror. You know.
it's trying to be a horror movie. Yeah, some of the makeup effects are kind of silly, but it's trying to be a horror movie more than the third one, which I think the third one is technically a better main movie, like because it has like triple the times the budget, I'm sure, of the first movies. But the second one, everybody seems to really like the second one, but I thought the second one dragged a little bit too much, you know,
Hmm.
and just that's just my opinion. I think there's still a lot of effort made. Sam Raimi really he did a lot with, I'm sure, with the budget he had.
Right.
And but the first movie is
Um.
still a bit more horror. But it's just some of the things
Yeah.
it wasn't trying to be comedy. It was trying to be horror, and it became something else. But
Hmm.
I think a lot of the stuff Keanu Reeves, he tries to be. He can be a good actor when he wants to be, but a lot of his stuff kind of sounds funny because his acting style is kind of weird. You know,
Yeah. He sounds. Uh. He sounds stiff with his words.
he's like the stoner in a non-stoner movie. You know,
Right.
because he's like, well, it's like everybody says, well, that's what the impression everybody does. But like you got movies where he's trying to act too much, like the Bram Stoker, the Dracula movie that came out in that time, um, made by the Coppola one with Gary Oldman. He
I
he's
know.
trying to do he's trying to do like a British accent, and Keanu Reeves
Yeah,
cannot
and he does terribly.
he
Yeah.
cannot do a British accent. I mean, I can barely do a British accent, but I think I can do one better than Keanu Reeves. But he's like this California accent trying to do British, like, forgiveness is divine. I'm doing the quote. That was the trying to do the quote from the Turtle movie. But that's just kind of what he talks like, and he doesn't. He should have just did the Kevin Costner route and just not do the accent at all. And it's like your voice is weird. It's I'm guessing America. I think the movie did come out. I think America was established when that movie came out. So he should have just been American, but I don't think he was. I think he's supposed to be
Right.
English. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen reviews of that Dracula movie, and I think it was Red Letter Media, which I think you said you don't like them, right?
yeah, no, they're
Well,
just
they did huh.
no nothing. Go ahead.
They did a review of Bram Stoker's Dracula, and they said Keanu was one of the worst parts of it because he doesn't fit in the movie.
No, he doesn't fit the
Like,
movie. I mean, he's a good actor, like they said, when he can. But in that movie, they should have got an English actor to do an English role. You know,
right. He was just what was popular at the time, so they just threw him in there.
right? Um, and for somebody who has such, for somebody who has such like he's a very thick accent, even though he's kind of, you could probably put him anywhere in the United States, and I think he could fit. But he has that, that Bill and Ted was coming out in the voice, and it's hard for him to kind of change that up. And
Mm.
so they should have went out for another actor. But I think he was just popping off at the time, and it's like, ooh, we got this Keanu Reeves kid. He's popping off right now, so let's put him in the movie, and let's not put him in as an American. And um, it's just a weird casting choice on the studio's part. But I mean, he's not he's not terrible. I just think his acting style. It's also the directors. The directors control, like, if your acting seems flat, it's up to them to make it not look that way, and that's what you do takes. I know some people can't do takes, but um, like John Wick. A lot of the John Wick movies are basically him doing a lot of the action stuff, and he has very few lines.
Mm.
And you know, I guess that's good for him because you come to see John Wick. You don't come to hear Keanu Reeves recite a novel, but he does bring something to the role because he does the training, he does all the martial arts stuff. He's really taking hits that some people wouldn't even do that. They'd be like, I'll have my stunt double, or we'll just CGI it, and I won't take any of the hits, and I don't want to get any dust on my clothes and not put in any of the effort. And so that's why I commend him, although he's he might not be the best choice for everything, but he's a good choice for something.
Mm. Um. All right. You want me to say the movie now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. And this one, I own this one now. Have you ever heard of Jim Jarmusch?
What?
Jim Jarmusch.
I don't think so.
Okay, well he's the director. Anyway, he directed a movie in 1995 with Johnny Depp, and it's in black and white. It's called Dead Man. It's a western. That's not the movie I'm talking about, but from what I saw, I got bored about 30 minutes into it. But what I saw of it, it wasn't terrible. Um, and he's got a movie from 2005 called Broken Flowers. It has Bill Murray in it. Uh, but
What was the? Is that the movie? The Which movie is the one you wanted to talk about?
the one I want to talk about is 1999's Ghost Dog: The Way of the Samurai,
Oh,
which has Forrest Whitaker in it. It has some amazing fucking hip hop in it, which I don't usually like, but the soundtrack is fucking amazing. And I also don't normally, uh, I don't know if I should be cussing, but I am anyway. Uh, I got the freaking movie on Criterion, and it comes with a booklet of like set photos of the movie,
yeah,
and it comes with this thing called the Hakagure. It's some Japanese word, but it's the Book of the Samurai, and there's like you open up the thing and it stretches out, and there's a bunch of he says a bunch of like samurai quotes in it, like all through it.
right.
Anyway, this is like pre John Wick, obviously, pre Hitman, pre Jason Bourne, all that stuff. So Ghost Dog is a contract killer. a master of his trade who can whirl a gun at warp speed and moves through this world like a phantom. It says he's stealthy and whatever the hell that word is. Uh, in the spirit of the samurai, he has pledged his loyalty to a small town mobster named Louis, who saved him his life many years before. So, Ghost Dog is played by Forrest Whitaker, and it's a crime drama. It has some like gangster stuff in it, sort of like Sopranos or Goodfellas,
Right.
and it has hip hop in it, and you know, um, I mentioned in a post not too long ago that I really wanted the Criterion, but I couldn't afford it because the Criterion was like $40, and I didn't want to spend that.
Right.
And a friend of mine on Instagram bought me the Criterion at Barnes and Noble and sent it to me, um, which is fucking wild. I did not expect that. Uh, but yeah, this this movie is fucking awesome.
I think you told me about that one. When I don't know. I'm just, and it's not anything underlying or whatever, but it's just, I don't know, just Japanese like anime stuff. Like I know people are really big into anime, and I just could never get into it. And like the Japanese stuff, like I'm not a weeb, so I'm just not big into like that kind of culture. And it's not for
No,
any you know
no,
anything that's underlying. Like it's just, that's just not my
no, no.
thing.
That's not what this is. He he reads from a samurai handbook, and he doesn't speak Japanese. He reads from a samurai handbook and just says quotes throughout the movie. And uh, he's a contract killer. So, there's a lot of shooting, a lot of he doesn't use a sword in it. He trains with a sword, but he doesn't actually use a sword. So I don't actually know why it's called Way of the Samurai besides him reading a samurai handbook. I mean, that's all he does that has anything to do with the title. Um, no, this is the only movie, I guess, besides Panic Room, that I've seen Forrest Whitaker in. I mean, he's in Black Panther and shit like that, but he's the lead in this, and he's fucking awesome.
He's also in a movie where he plays Idi Amin. I forgot the name of it, but he plays. He's in a movie. The Good Morning Vietnam. He plays a small sporting role in that movie.
Well, I think you know what? Um, Hold on a second. I didn't mean to cut you off. He's in Platoon. He's got a small role in Platoon, and I saw him in that.
Yeah. There's a couple actors that are. It's like you see him in like a bunch of stuff, but they get to start. Johnny Depp. That's one of his first movies.
Right.
That was like that might have been like his first movie where he does a supporting character role, and then he had another like one that really broke him out was The Nightmare on Elm Street, maybe, or might got them. No, Platoon came out. Yeah, because Platoon, I believe, came out before Full Metal Jacket. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Platoon came out in 1986.
Oh,
Is that before Full Metal Jacket?
well, Full Metal Jacket came out in '87.
Oh.
Yeah, Full Metal Jacket came out in '87, and
Okay. So
then Platoon. Hold on, let's see.
Platoon came out in
Platoon
'86.
came out in '86. So yeah, Platoon came out first. Yeah, but it's funny because it's weird. Yeah, Forrest Whitaker in it. I forgot he was in there, but yeah, just like Willem Dafoe, Charlie Sheen, Johnny Depp, Kevin Dillon. Yeah, it's weird. I feel like
Yeah,
John C. McGinley's character. I feel like he has more of like he has more time on screen. I mean Keith David, but Keith David is like listed in the casting, like almost like way down the line, which is weird. But that's just I guess that's just how they did it. I don't know.
right.
Uh,
But yeah, I do recommend the movie. It 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 blends a bunch of different genres together. Uh, you got the minor samurai stuff, no Japanese involved. You got the minor samurai stuff. You got the hip hop music. You got the gangster stuff. Like they're literally the main bad guy is an old mobster, and he pretty much serves no threat because he barely does anything in it. Um,
right.
he's just an old guy. I mean, Forrest Whitaker kills him. Well, I shouldn't say that. But he good defeats evil, and then some things happen at the end of it. Um,
Right. No, and yeah, it is what it sounds like an interesting idea, but I guess because the name is like Ghost Dog, it's just weird. Is
oh,
that like
believe,
his name? Is that the
yeah,
name or
yeah, he doesn't have an actual name. His name is Ghost Dog. And whenever Louis is explaining to the big mobsters what his name is, and he says his name's Ghost Dog, they're like, Ghost Dog, what the fuck is that? Is that his hip hop rapper name? It's there actually there's like a tiny hint of comedy in it. Um, the it's kind of silly, but it's supposed to be serious. Um, and would I recommend this more over Buffalo 66? I think I recommend both of them at the same level.
right?
They're
I'll
they're they're
have
both
to check it out for sure.
they're both better than She's All That. Let's just put it that way. They're adult dramas, both of them. So
Right. I mean, those
like I
those
said,
kind of the movies are good. The it might have been the because that's funny you say that because you say it's underrated, but that's also one of the movies that are on like a list. Like I have a underrated top 30 underrated list of movies, and
mhm.
Ghost Dog that one was on there. So I mean, people must really dig it. So I'll have to check it out. Um, but I mean, yeah, I talked about when did 8 millimeter come out? Let me see.
uh, Joel Schumacher, 8 millimeter.
Yeah, that one's 99 too.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I'm gonna talk about that one a little bit, and then I guess I will, if that's okay with you, uh, shut it. Uh, I guess we'll end it. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, and because we've been talking for
Oh, wow, almost 2 hours, almost
y-
3 hours.
yeah, almost.
Um, yeah, almost 3 hours. Sorry.
But before you start talking about 8 millimeter, I just want to say that I have seen half of it or something. I know that Joaquin Phoenix is in it, and I know pretty much what the plot is, but I have not seen the entire thing.
You haven't seen the entire thing?
No.
Okay, so I'll try to move around some details. Okay, so, but yeah, that's another one of those movies. I guess that came out at that time. I don't know exactly when it came out, but I knew it came out early, you know, early 2000s at least. But that was one of those movies that I thought was, Joel Schumacher doing something a little bit different than movies like The Lost Boys, which a great vampire movie. The Batman movies, although the Batman movies aren't the best, they're still aesthetically. Some of the stuff is aesthetically pleasing. The look is unique. Um, and I watched another movie that he directed, The Wiz. It wasn't. No, it was like fairly recently, but he did direct The Wiz. That came out in the late '70s, I think, with Michael Jackson, Diana Ross, um, which is basically essentially it's the black version of The Wizard of Oz. Um, and in this movie, Nicolas Cage plays this the detective. I'm pretty sure he plays like this detective, and they find out about this woman's daughter, and they find out this woman's daughter has been captured, and they got the film. They found this film of this girl, and it's awful, terrible stuff. And with there's so many, and with movies like Sound of Freedom that just came out. I'm sure you've probably seen stuff about that.
Yes.
Movies like that just came out, and they're talking about all the trafficking and kidnap, all those sex slavery and stuff like that. And maybe it's not necessarily sex slavery, but it's it's these people, these taking these young kids. I mean, I think she's what, like 16, 17 in the movie. This girl is supposed to be, and taking this young girl and abusing her and doing all this stuff. And there's so many. I'm sure there's stuff like this that's going around somewhere on the internet um, that people will watch for their own amusement. And it's just not. It's crazy how it's still going on, but to see something that's in a way it's very tame. Like it's still very tame compared to what they could have shown. But if they would have shown a little too much, then it would have seemed excessive. So I'm glad they kind of didn't make it all about like what was on the content of the film, much less getting down to the bottom of it and why, and um, serving some justice that needed to be done. And Nicolas Cage, he's not acting crazy like insane in the movie, and he's very grounded, and he's like a real cop. There's other movies where it's kind of like that's like a Bad Lieutenant, where he's supposed to be playing like this cop, but he's like a drug addict, and he's just kind of crazy, and he does some wild shit. But in this movie, he's very realistic. He gets to act, and him uncovering all this stuff as he's going along. It's all very, it keeps you sucked in. And I was when I watched it the first time, I was very drawn. Like I think it was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm watching this movie early, late. It's like early in the morning. It's dark. It's you got in the right mood, and I was just invested in the movie, and that's the kind of stuff that I like. It's talking about a dark subject, but it just keeps you draw. It just draws you in. It's like, what's gonna happen? What are they gonna find the guy? And so that's why it might not have been popular because of the subject matter when it came out, if I had to guess. But I think one of the good mystery, you know, movies that came out around that time that I think is overlooked because of the subject matter. But what do you think? Like, I mean, at least you only saw part of it, but
Yeah, because whenever you look it up, it says it's 2 hours and 3 minutes. I probably got only less than 30 minutes into it
yeah,
because, well, I don't really know why.
and it really it doesn't. it it doesn't have that big of a score on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's because of I think it's just because of like the subject matter, and people are like, "Oh, this is dirty, disgusting
Um,
movie. I don't like it," and so that's probably why people say it. But if you really sit down and watch the movie, if you know what you're kind of going into beforehand, I really think it's one of those movies that's like you feel better. You kind of feel better that your kids, if you have kids, if your kids are grown and they're safe, and you're not having to worry about all that stuff, and you want to look, you kind of make sure you want to look out for yourself, you want to think about things a little bit more, and and I like that. And so but yeah, I definitely recommend, if you haven't seen it, you should definitely watch the rest of it.
all right. I want to say that, like, isn't the video you're talking about with the girl, isn't it like a snuff?
Yeah, it's a snuff film. They
Okay. Because have you ever seen Videodrome?
I have not, no.
Okay, well, Videodrome has to do with snuff too, and that came out 20 years, 25 years prior to 8 millimeter.
Right.
Um,
That was David Cronenberg. Is that one?
yeah, David Cronenberg, and I own that on Criterion too.
Is that one pretty? Is it like the 8 millimeter?
Well, it's got a no, it's like horror. It
Oh,
body horror. There's some snuff involved, like some sleazy 80s snuff.
right.
Uh, and it has. Do you know who Deborah Harry is?
She's Blondie, right?
Yes, she's in it, and
She
I recommend that for her alone.
is she naked in the movie?
No, not necessarily, but there's some things that happen in it that just wow, like wow. It's very strange. Uh, like I'm not trying to take away from the conversation about 8 millimeter. I'm just saying it's
Well, I mean, well,
they got similar.
8 millimeter. I mean, if video drums probably more, it's like in your face. 80. If it's like kind of in your face, but I think what 8 millimeter is trying to do, it's supposed to be like more realistic. Like these guys are trying to find this, like this guy's trying to find a film of this. You got a film of this girl's daughter, and they're trying to figure out why, who was involved, what's going on, and it's supposed to be more of a mystery. I feel like I've never seen Videodrome, but it's more as a mystery plot of it, and it's what's his name, no, Nicolas Cage and Joaquin Phoenix. They're kind of working together to figure out all this stuff, and,
Right.
and so there's more of a mystery element than, if I have to guess, Videodrome is probably more of like he gets captured by this girl and they do bad stuff to her, and it's kind of like, see what we're making cinema. This is what you don't want to see, and this is very
Uh,
egregious. Look at this movie we're making.
um, um, James Woods is in it. I don't know if you like James Woods or not.
I know his Hades in the Hercules movie, or in
Okay.
Hercules.
Have you
I've never really
seen?
seen any of his movies. No, that's what you're asking.
Okay, so you haven't seen Vampires? Um,
That's
John
the
Carp.
Carpenter. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
not seen it, but I know about it.
Okay. Well, it's not that good, but I enjoyed it because I guess because of James Woods. But anyway, I just the reason I mentioned it is because 8 millimeter and Videodrome have similar themes, but James Woods is a trashy he's a president of a trashy TV station, and he's desperate for something new to put on the channel, and he gets he he gets real, like, raw videotapes for his channel, which is snuff, and he broadcasts it.
How is
Uh,
he able to do that?
I don't really know.
He must get that HBO type of channel.
I guess. Um, it's like late night, hardcore, adult, you know, trash. Like, please. Um, but there's more to it than that. I'm telling you.
Oh, I think
James,
I saw the Criterion on Amazon. I'll have to pick it up.
yeah, it's not. It's horror. Like, there is no realism involved. It's supposed to be scary. If you've seen The Fly, it has some stuff similar to that in it.
I watched the original Fly from the 50s.
Okay, so you haven't seen the David Cronenberg?
I have the Cronenberg Fly. I've never watched it. I
Oh,
watched the original first because I wanted to see that one. I know it has a lot of body horror. I know about Gina Davis. Is she in that? She's in that movie.
yeah, Gina did.
And Jeff Goldblum, and I know
Mhm.
about it. Um, but yeah, that's why I think what is it, 8 millimeter? Like horror. 8 millimeter is kind of horror, or
Right, it has like a scary, like
it's
a
Videodrome is more horror because it's trying to be horror. Video, damn it, I keep getting it mixed up. 8 millimeter is
a thriller.
thriller, and it's kind of based. Although there's a lot of liberties taken with it, but it seems more realistic. Like it seems more of like just people with a lot of money, trying to do this stuff that actually happens, and it seems more grounded, which makes it even more scary because it's like shit. I'm sure there's probably people who local governments, different varying degrees, who have done this shit, and they would never admit it, in a court of law, or they would never admit it. They would deny, and
Right.
so, and that's even more scary to think about. But you know,
Um, at some point in time, I probably will watch 8 millimeter. I mean, like I said before, I'm OCD about what I'm gonna watch the next day or what I'm gonna watch today, and I change my mind constantly. Um, I confuse myself when it comes to what I want to watch. Uh, but before we go, I want to say, in Videodrome, James Woods gets a VHS tape shoved inside of his stomach,
hmm,
and it's it's something.
that's interesting. um, well, if you want to see things getting shoved into people's stomachs, watch Infinity Pool, directed by Brandon Cronenberg's son, or David Cronenberg's son.
Right.
There are some things that get shoved into stomachs for sure. Um, but with that being said, thank everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Tell us what you think about Mystery Men and some of the other movies we talked about. I'll put it in the poll when this goes up. Let me know your thoughts on it. If you have any suggestions on what we should watch or what we should talk about in another episode, let us know. That being said, do you have anything you want to say before you go?
No, I'm all right.
Good. All righty. Well, thank you guys for listening, and I will see you in the next one.